Hello, LPL fans far and wide. Welcome back to LPL English Twitch or YouTube channel, your unofficial coverage of the LPL. Now, of course, in the midst of its postseason run through Split 1. I, of course, will be your play-by-play caster, Slayer, combined with my most frequent and one of my favorite partners, Bloxer, on the analysis tonight as we have ourselves the I believe, second to last upper bracket matchup here. A spot in the upper bracket finals awaiting a JD Gaming team. And only one of Billy Gaming and Weibo Gaming can find themselves in that matchup, Bloxer. What a matchup we've got on the cards here. I believe there's no way this series doesn't thrill.
Absolutely. I mean, this is going to be team number 2 and team number 3 from the regular season. Teams with very different prospects coming in. Teams that had very different looks throughout the regular season as well. For Weibo, they started off really weak. It was looking like it was going to be a pretty bad split for them, but they turned things around about week 4 and really got themselves back into form. For BLG, it was pretty consistent the whole way through, and now this really does feel like a bit of a clash of the titans.
Boxer, we did have our classic BLG drama that always seems to happen through Split 1, but I'm glad you pointed out it seems like they righted the ship of whatever was going on with their top laner to get back to these more winning ways, and we'll, of course, talk about a bit later in this pre-show why we feel like Weibo has really found their form, because, spoiler alert, there's one clear reason why. But before we get more into our matchup as it currently stands, let's take a look at the overarching playoff bracket as we are currently situated with a lower gauntlet. Gaming squad, who have a host of their own all-pro ballot members on this roster. Zeka in the top side, JJ, one of those members I mentioned, the LPL crowning him on an all-pro team. The general himself, the pentakill man himself from his last series, Xiaohu in the mid lane. And of course, maybe one of the greatest AD carries form-wise right now in the world, Elk, newly minted on Weibo Gaming, next to another promising support in Urha.
It's just been a really, really fun roster. As we were talking about, this was a team that came in with some pretty high expectations, obviously, and you're expecting this team to kind of get off on the right foot, really start winning a lot of games early on. Their early looks just really were not good. One of their first losses was handed to them by BLG, and they had this little bit of spiraling going on for them early on in the split, but all of a sudden, midway through the season, they really got their feet back under them. It was specifically their matchups versus JDG, who you were just singing the praises of, where it felt like all of a sudden this team exploded to the forefront, and so much of that has been from the mid lane and from the bot lane. Xiaohu and Elk have been excellent this split.
Yeah, and Bloxer, you know, in a Split 1 where we've seen a lot of rosters undergo a modest amount of change, we've seen a good amount of youth injection into some of these, even Group Ascend rosters. When it comes to talking about Weibo, where they currently are situated, I just want to praise that turnaround you're talking about towards the veterans on this team, because you really need those guys when we see so much turnover in the league, and got to think that, you know, a monumental LPL player like Xiaohu and JJ has been around for a very long time, help this team steer its way back forward. But as much praise as we do have for Weibo with their new look roster, they are taking on more than a formidable foe on the other side. That, of course, being a Billy Gaming, a roster that had very few turnovers if you consider members returning to the squad, that of course being Shun in the jungle, but we still got Bin and Knight as the solo lanes of this team, and then Viper, the man once crowned a world champion for the LPL, now with Billy Gaming trying to do the same, paired up with On in the support role.
And it's been a pretty similar look for this team. This is what makes this matchup particularly exciting. Again, you're looking at the mid lane, you're looking at the bot lane as those explosive places where so much has been happening. Knight has been rolling over from what I think was a very good 2025 for him. During Split 3 specifically, he really came into his own. I mean, watching him on the Ziggs versus Azir matchup where he just murders his way through an entire game, completely reshapes the meta, makes a lot of other teams way more reticent to try to pick themselves up that Azir, and just was taking over games. He felt like he was able to just fully roll that on into this next split and really wasn't looking back. But for the rest of BLG, who they were pretty good, they had themselves a very good overall year, but felt like they had some new heights to be able to reach. God, they have been so good, and Viper has to be praised massively for this. He has been all over the map, he's been so good in team fights as well, and you've got to also put some praise onto Jun's head too. He's been able to pair up alongside On and get themselves around the map, and have a lot of impact in these lanes.
Yeah, I don't want to take away from Shun's, ability to be a star player, but I just think of him as such one of the best complementary piece players we can think of, in the sense that in a BLG roster where even back to last year, we talked endlessly about how, everybody's resource heavy, right? It's like Bin wants, help here. Knight obviously wants help in the mid lane. Bottom lane needs a lot of attention as well. Shun just feels like the perfect jungler to kind of play into that style for BLG, so I'm very glad you praised him. We'll, of course, talk about that Marksman you alluded to a bit later, but we need to start the conversations with this mid lane matchup. Two mid laners that have seen themselves go blow to blow so many times over the many splits by this point, and, well, of course, got to compare their stats so far in 2026, Bloxer.
Yeah, this is going to be the stats for them during the playoffs specifically, although it was pretty much the same story during the regular season as well. And like we said, both of these teams, they had a pretty good time for themselves during that first round of the playoffs. Pretty easy to dispatch IG for Weibo, pretty easy to dispatch of NIP for BLG, so these stats are a little bit inflated perhaps, but really, both of these mid laners have been all over. The thing I find most interesting is the kill participation. This reflected in the regular season as well. Knight has been very proactive in pairing up alongside the rest of his team, going and getting involved, roaming around, has really found himself a lot of comfort as well on these heavy roaming mid laners. The Rise, for instance, being one of his most picked champions, and that's been really fun to see because Knight's so good individually in the mid lane, but if he can go pair himself up with Jun and get involved in the other lanes, it just elevates this team.
Yeah, and speaking on those earlier matchups and Knight's creativity, when we roll through some of these clips, I really found this Game 3 LeBlanc to be just super oppressive, right? We've talked about a lot of our mid laners opening up their champ pool. We've seen like Cassiopeia come into play a bit more. LeBlanc comes out. It really felt like it was only Rookie that was trying that one. Knight had a great game on it, and of course, had to make sure we gave some love to the old man. It still got hands on one of the newer champions. It feels a dime a dozen that we get these Xiaohu pentakills, so we got to appreciate them when they come.
Yeah, this mid lane matchup has been kind of crazy when we saw it previously. Obviously, BLG was able to come out on top both of the matchups that they had with Weibo, but that hasn't meant that the mid lane matchup itself hasn't been explosive, and it feels like this has been the hardest test for Xiaohu. Everybody else he's been playing against, I feel like he's been taking out everybody. He's been really ahead of his opponents, other than Knight, who kind of has his number, who's been able to just get himself ahead in a lot of situations. And if you're able to right that ship potentially, just be able to play Knight a little bit stronger in this matchup for Xiaohu, that's another avenue where you can really try to take over this game as Weibo.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you're giving praise to Xiao, who's kind of turned around a lot of his mid lane matchups, because you alluded to earlier how Weibo had that rough start, and a lot of that criticism was going towards Xiaohu, right? Like, some of his laning phases were bad, his impact wasn't there. But again, back to maybe the shift in ideology for Weibo. I'm glad to see that you can, pull out the Aurora Pentakills, but I think this team has really embraced the idea of Xiaohu maybe being able to play a bit more of a supportive role, go for these Galio picks, because you've got a guy like Elk in the bottom lane who can really help carry through games that they didn't really have last year with Light.
No, that's just been the big turnaround right here, is that you can look at Elk and go, hey, what do you need? You need 20 minutes, a good chunk of gold, and you can take over a game. Wonderful. I can provide that for you. I can give you that level of support. The whole roster feels like it's built around giving Elk what he needs, and all he needs is a small lead to be able to just take over a game.
Yeah, so now time to talk about the Marksmen. I want to shout out the LCS here. I grew up as an NA resident, loving This or That. I watched every episode of This or That when it came out with Kobe and Jet. So we want to pay a little homage to them and play This or That with our two Marksmen, the marquee matchup that we have here. And it's a bit of an interesting one here. So blocks are like off the board. Our first category here, domestic success in the LPL. You know, coming in to talk about Viper and Elk, you feel like maybe it's hard to ever pick against Viper, but the numbers I'm looking at, I'm thinking we're going that on the first one.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting here where Elk just has that extra level of longevity and he's been able to put up the numbers. But still, with 3 years in the LPL, being in the top 3 every single time, that's pretty hard to argue, guys. I feel like you are right, though. It probably is that in this situation, but it's so close considering the disparity in years.
And Blockster, you know, feel free to pick against me, right? That's part of the fun of it. But I also will be on that side. Let's move on to our next little category between these two, and maybe things will get a bit closer to my analytical co-mind here, Blockster. Split 1 stats. I mean, there's some number. What's the argument here? Like, Elk has more raw impact on the games. He doesn't necessarily play for the KDA as much, but Viper, I mean, a marksman's best tool is arguably not dying. So him having second KDA, that's a pretty high mark as well.
Yeah, I think for this one, I'm going for this, because as much as Viper has a little bit less damage percentage, he's a little bit less involved in the kills, he's your knockout punch. Everything else is set up, waiting for him to get to that 20 minutes, as much gold in the back pocket, go just knock your opponents out. It's not different for Elk, he still is that knockout punch for them in a lot of situations, but as much as he gives you a high level of impact, it feels like Viper, once he gets to that team fight, you're done for.
You're not going to get me disagreeing with you about that assessment of Viper, but you are going to get me disagreeing with you on this section. Listen, marksman stats, I mean, the damage percentage, the gold percentage, the KP, Elk is the living engine of Weibo. They are not near here without his impact in those stats. So I'm going to go against you, Bloxer, and go with that side. We'll roll into our final one, or I guess our tiebreaker here between us pitting us up against each other. Playoff stats, right? So, you know, a little bit more narrowed into the postseason so far. What's your read?
Oh, and this one's really tough. This is where your round 1 opponent, I think, really does take a little bit of an impact right here, because as BLG, yeah, you get to beat up on a slightly weaker team overall. Look, NIP were great. I really enjoyed what NIP were able to do, and I don't want to be heaping too much praise onto an IG that had a bad split for themselves. Still, there is a disparity in the overall damage percentages. There's in what they're able to do overall. So I think in this situation, as much as the raw stats maybe don't fully reflect it, you got to take that in this situation. Okay,
all right. You know, again, I think the stat that may sway me a bit here is that gold difference at 15. 80 carries really want to get ahead of them. Nah, I'm kidding. I'm with you, Bloxer. I am not. As much as I love Viper, I can't give him credit for beating up on NIP. So we're going to give it to Elk. Shout out again, This or That, the LCS crew. I hope they keep bringing that one back. But let's hone back in on our region here, which is the LPL, Bloxer. And, you know, a conversation we could open up here as we have walkouts going across. Is it a little bit too optimistic to say this could be a potential finals preview? Or am I going a little too far in your mind?
Ooh, I like this conversation because it's really a question of not, do you think Weibo and BLG are awesome? Yeah, obviously. It's whether or not you think JDG are going to be able to take them to task. Because JDG, they had themselves a weird split one. 5-5 overall record. Some awesome wins, some truly devastating losses. And as we were talking about just earlier, Weibo felt like they got their turnaround when they beat JDG. They got the 2-0 in the first matchup, the 2-1 in the second matchup, and that was their turning point. That was where all of a sudden, Xiaohu was clicking with the rest of the squad. He was turning everything back on. It was a great look for them. And so on the other side of it, JDG, back and forth, 500 record. I do think this is a very potential finals matchup, but I do think that JDG playoffs feels like they've got themselves a buff.
I mean, that's the fun of it, right? Is that we have JDG that are playing really well, just knocked down the #1 seed. AL have been to the lower bracket before and made it a problem on everyone else when they usually go down there. So I'm sure Tarzan is very unhappy that he's all the way down in the lower bracket. Never really want to bet against an angry AL, especially as an AL fan as mine. I'm just happy, Bloxer, that as the playoffs currently stands, before we get into this matchup, I think most people could agree you could pick 4 teams to be your Split 1 champion right now.
Yeah, everybody that came in on the upper bracket, you were like, okay, you've probably got a chance, other than maybe your WE and your NIP, right? They were happy to be there. they're going to have a fun time down in the lower bracket. I'm excited for the TSWE matchup, right? I think that one's going to be fun. IG, NIP, again, I think that will be fun. But you're right, there kind of is this top 4 that you are really looking towards. The lower bracket run does well for a lot of teams. As much as we're talking about wanting to just get through as quickly as possible, being able to warm up your engines a little bit, and just ramp up slowly to harder and harder teams to face, it can really hone your craft.
All right, well, let's see. Let's put that, wide open split 1 to test here, because this matchup will really show us, especially more so, it's more so a bit more pressure on Weibo, this team that has been playing well, but you got to put your money where your mouth is when you're in a playoffs, and especially matching up against, obviously, the defending champions of the LPL, the Split 3 champions from 2025, getting set here to get into draft soon, Bloxer. So I want to pick your brain a little bit about some champions you feel like are really powerful for both these comps, or just some champions you feel like have really made their way into the LPL meta? Because I feel like since we got to playoffs, we've seen the champ pool expand a bit more than we had in the regular split.
Yeah, it really has. I think mid lane specifically is where I found a lot of interest. As you said, right, during the regular season, it was relatively standard overall. We had a couple of funky picks coming back and forth, right? The Cassiopeia getting into the meta I thought was really fun. I love that as an anti-engage tool. But now that we've jumped into the playoffs, all of a sudden, we're getting all sorts of things pulled out. The LeBlancs, the Auroras are getting very aggressive. You can still go back with the Gallios or the Rises if you want to help your team out a little bit more. The Ari ever present, as well as just kind of the staples we've always got. Your Syndras, your Azirs, your Orianas of the world. I love that we've got this whole meta going on where you're really open, and especially with the way that drafts are run at the moment, your mid laner is usually picked during the earliest stages, so you definitely get yourself a counter at whichever side you really want it. If you can push that a little bit further back, it sort of opened things up in the mid lane and for the rest of the draft.
And what does the other side of the coin go towards the mid lane in all these conversations about teams? Jungle. And that's where I think the best of fives has also really opened up a lot of creativity, right? I mean, can't forget, Junja won a Kha'Zix Game 5 just last night. So I think that's all the research I need to present to you guys. That the jungle pool will definitely be fun, and I'm sure that Shun and JJ will pull towards them, but we are live with our first game draft of this upper bracket bout, BLG Weibo Gaming. It looks like BLG Weibo will hold on to that first selection on the red side, as we can see by their bans. So keep that in mind as we go through things. We're already seeing some of those mid laners, Bloxer, that you talked about, the heavy hitters, not going to be present in this game 1. And yeah, the Zero Aurora, Oriana, I mean, is that arguably the top 3 mid laners, top 5 mid laners right now in the league?
Immediately we're taking a lot of that top band of mid laners straight off of the board. I'm not surprised to see the Nico go as well. The only final thing you kind of expect to see banned away is the Rumble. That tends to be the first pick. I was going to say B1, the first pick, if you don't ban that one out. But that top tier of mid laners being taken off the board potentially opens us up for something really exciting coming through, something a little bit different now, and it keeps the option of something explosive happening later on available too.
Well, there goes that Rumble you were talking about. So the way things are situated, I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, the Rise was the one outlier, the mid laners that were left up. So Xiaohu going to comfortably get himself on a mid laner that everybody's been playing. But what does this mean for the BLG turn? I suspect some jungle will come out here.
Yeah, they've been really heavily leaning into just aggressive ganking junglers that can give you some pretty good team fights. Your Jarvins, your Wukongs of the world, that's been where they've really been looking on towards. Interesting that the Pantheon was taken off already. However, yeah, as much as we could talk about what you want to do in jungle, and it may well be the second pick here, it's just the best ADC that you've got. The versatility that you've got, and just how good Viper is on this Varus is just explodes the priority of it so high.
Cannot ever discount that Varus. Glad you made that point here. And, well, I'm going to fall for a bit of a hover. You know what? I was speaking into existence. We're not going to talk about it yet because I think we're going to get a jungle pick. Regardless, the point I want to make here is I think whatever BLG do end up going with is going to play into that sort of all-out. You trolls! They just went back to the okay. This fits into that sort of BLG playstyle, right? Bloxer, we're going to play press coverage all across the map, try and get everywhere we can, take up space, and play for mid-game power spiking. Talia Varus definitely fit that build very well.
Absolutely, and it just gives you that roam potential alongside the Rise. You're not going to be left behind in any of these situations. It means you're not with any level of deficit during your laning phase as well. The response could well be the Yunara. Again, one of those top tier ADC picks, and that makes me so excited. The fact that we get Viper on his Varus and Elk onto this Yunara is going to be so very exciting. Now, both of these teams have got roaming mid laners. They've got ADCs that really need front lines ahead of them, so you've got to be very careful here to not leave your support or your top lane picks too late into this draft if you don't want things taken away from you. I love the idea of the Jarvan right now. For Yunara, being able to just shoot fish in a barrel is excellent.
So immediately here for JJ, you've got a Talia that cannot get out of a Cataclysm unless there's a flash, and a Varus that cannot get out of a Cataclysm unless there's a flash. So I'm glad you pointed out the Jarvan. Bloxer, I'm right there with you. A lot of intrinsic value, but we'll see what the jungle response looks like here for Xun. Again, Bloxer said it. BLG like to play junglers that can kind of look to gank early, set up skirmishes. So that vibe fits, again, right into the Billy playstyle.
It does very much, but at the same time, you are now very much locking yourself into the earlier stages of the game. The Vi falls off much, much harder than the Jarvan ever is going to. It also, I think, is going to really need a dive buddy. We've seen far too many times throughout this LPL split and plenty of years prior where you have someone like Xun on this Vi and they go, right, I'm going to go in. They go in, they instantly die, and, well, cool. Thank you for your participation during this team fight. A lot less likely to happen with the Jarvan. Neither of these teams have any sort of real tank, and I think that's what they need to be focusing on into this next round to give these junglers, both of them, but very specifically the Vi, a dive buddy to play alongside.
I feel like the support role is where we can start to figure out some of those pieces. I do think the Lulu ban makes a ton of sense. I believe that's the most common pairing we usually see with that Yunara, that hyperscale style Marksman. So that's a simple ban here. But for Weibo, are you expecting, to kind of get rid of some of those support dive buddies? Because I don't think there's a lot of top laners that are really going to be able to follow this Vi up like you're looking for.
I mean, you have always got the potential of just the standard engage supports. They've all been pretty strong recently. Teams have also been looking at the Rakan. They haven't been fully committing to it. A couple games here and there for both of these supports. It can work as a dive buddy, but it's a lot less committal than something like the Poppy, for instance. You are going in. You're going to go fight with someone. The Alistair too, who you are going in, and that can be really fun. Still, both of these team compositions would need a little bit of non-committal engage. Weibo have it way worse in terms of non-committal engage. Right now, they kind of just are the Jarvan going on and leaping in. So in that situation, I think I'm a little bit surprised to see this Nautilus ban. I think they could have benefited from something like the Nautilus here.
Yeah, maybe just want to take away the lane threat of a Varus and Nautilus together, but I'm with you. They definitely need, maybe like a Leona fits well here. I keep thinking non-committal engage. Solar Flare is like the first thing that always screams out of my head whenever I hear non-committal engage. So we'll see if Urha decides to go that route. We saw a couple of top laners taken down. Very staple picks here, the Renekton and the Ambessa. But do we have, this is the fever, the Bard fever that has been sweeping our supports, and I could not be happier. We've seen Vampire, we've seen Kael, and now On says, I want to take a shot at a playoff Bard appearance.
He's already played one in his previous matchup, and he had 5 games on it during the regular split too. It's been one of his most played champions this split, and I do like it alongside the Varus. The Varus can sit quite far back in lane. You don't have to worry so much about being able to go and roam around, and it does kind of give you that non-committal engage if you're able to hit that ulti. Now, hitting that ulti is always going to be the problem. Over on the side of Weibo, as we've been talking about non-committal engage, and like you said, the Solar Flare can be really great. Looks like that is going to be the lock-in. So you've got yourself your non-committal engage, your committal engage. Up in the top lane, you're pretty open. It is just going to be a little bit of a blind pick right here, though, so I do wonder if you want to go for something a little bit safer overall right now, Azika. He has had the Ambessa look pretty good for him. That one's banned away. Never mind. Maybe... Whoa.
Oh, all right. Well, this would very much so transform the Weibo comp. And also, the value of this Kennen, it's kind of hard to counterpick this Kennen for lane, right, Bloxer?
Yeah, at this point, when you already need some specific pieces for BLG, this is the problem, right? As much as you would want to just take a specific counter pick right here into the Kennen, can you afford it in this team composition? I like the hover on towards the J, saying, hey, I can try go ban for ban, I can try go toe for toe, but I don't think you can do that.
I hate this.
Is the other option where you try to push the Kennen and say, hey, Kennen, you're always going to just go get involved in the lane. That's fine, Zika. I don't care. I'm going to be off in a side lane pushing through towers. I agree, though. I very much prefer what Weibo have been able to build for themselves.
So, Blox, here's my thinking, right? Because very smart logic on your part. Take the Kennen out, make sure that you can't have that big teamfight ultimate. But then you look at the 4v4. Again, early to mid game, the pick potential of this BLG comp is there. But at a certain point, I think the Weibo 4v4 is still stronger without the Kennen team fighting, especially scaling into the game later. So BLG have really kind of pigeonholed themselves into the effectiveness of this comp already to start out our series.
Yeah, very much so. They have got themselves into a very narrow band in which this composition can really work for them, right? You are in the early to mid game, looking for as many ganks out of Jun as possible, try to get yourself ahead. You can roam alongside the Tilia, so that does at least work right there. Bard as well, very unlocked from lane, looking to roam around, so you may well have a 3-man death squad, but at the same time, you're not necessarily expecting Weibo to not be able to respond to that. JJ should be able to get around the map pretty easily as well. Same thing with Xiaohu, so you're not really going to be able to just out-rotate your opponents. You've got 15 minutes right here as BLG to get ahead. Otherwise, you lose in the 4v4, you lose in the 5v5. You're really just relying on split pushing being very strong, and we just haven't seen teams get that far ahead. Viper does a lot of damage late, so does Knight. That's kind of the only thing you're looking at here.
All right, definitely an intriguing draft, but we are onto the Rift for the first time tonight, and that means it's time to queue up some playoff GIOs. All right. You know, I like the energy. I always try to decide who I think wins. I don't know. I think it's pretty close. Let's see how the Gyos evolve as this series goes. Is classic bottom lane already looking for pretty aggressive trades here, but it's Viper and On that get out much more comfortable health-wise, and that's going to be very key as we continue to track Bloxer, like you talked about in draft. BLG need to get ahead fast and never look back.
Yeah, very much so. This whole composition very reliant on getting as much going early on as possible. Now, there's potential for explosive lanes all across the board. We've seen the ability for both of these mid laners to find their solo kills. Top planers as well in this matchup can be getting pretty aggressive. And we do also have this split start from the junglers looking to work towards opposite sides of the map. I think that's pretty interesting. If you can get involved early on in the top lane of Jun, that can really put this matchup over into your favor. It still is going to be Yorick favored in terms of the pure 1v1 once you get towards that first couple items, but at this early stage right here, the range advantage that you get as the Kennen is just going to be huge, and I love that we've got something so different. I feel like when we were talking earlier about the differences we've got in draft, how much flexibility teams have, top lane has been pretty stagnant overall. This is a nice little change.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm going to be the play-by-play guy for a moment here, Bloxer. Team fights are a lot more fun when you get a Kennen involved, right? So
that's true. That's
true.
true.
You sold me at that point, right? So it is worth mentioning, though, you know, pairing into that top lane conversation, that this is the one lane where I would expect Weibo to be a lot more comfortable, but Zika gets trapped in the play place early, has to burn the lightning rush, and nearly had a flash away from Bin, who had a solo kill as we go over to the other solo lane. Xiaohu gets seismic shoved right back into Knight, has to burn the Ghost. Now has to flash as he's nearly 1 Q away from death. And Weibo have decided that JJ is going to be the response, looking for a dive here. The stun lands into the Flag and Drag. That was beautifully comboed. Viper flashes trying to find a trade, but it's a sick dodge coming out from Urha. And all of a sudden, Weibo come out with first blood.
There we go, Weibo. They said, hey, as much as you want the early game BLG, we can do better. And they managed to get themselves that early kill off. Now, Jun looking to go for a little bit of a flank around, I think Xiaohu, he despite a sense of tingly, he knows something's up.
All right, that blast cone is a very safe haven for Xiaohu. Unless he goes right back over the mid lane wall. All right, I thought Shu was going to punish him. There was still some caster minions left up there. But nonetheless, Sun will just look to steal away some camps. And wow, this game has gone completely topsy-turvy to everything we outlined in draft already, Bloxer.
I mean, I'm not majorly surprised that we get to see some early explosivity in these lanes. The fact that you get that initial dive kill for Weibo is huge, though. We've been talking about how much the mid laners and the ADCs are going to be crucial in this matchup, and getting that initial kill onto Elk on the Yunaro, the best ADC, second best ADC potentially that we've seen throughout the entirety of this split, is going to be massive for him. It's also just in a matchup where you want to get a little bit further ahead because you've got all of the setup available to you. Weibo has built a composition that works perfectly to tee this up for Elk.
Speaking on that setup, we saw so many summoners obviously burned through these early trades. And there's a lot of setup for regigs, right? The fact that we don't have Flash on JJ, Xiaohu, Urha lost them. Vipers now without Flash on this immobile Varus. So I expect that the chaos of the early game will continue from both of our junglers once they obviously finish off their very wacky clears thanks to the early game escapades.
And this is also very early on for them to be getting involved, as you expect, but in the next couple of minutes, that's when these mid laners, that's when these supports are really going to be unlocked from their individual lanes and can go and get involved elsewhere on the map. You can see already On going for a roam around, pick himself up a couple of the chimes and see what he can find as well. Once we do fully get these supports and mid laners unlocked from their lanes and moving alongside their junglers, that's going to be massive. Obviously, you've got yourself a Drake coming up in a couple of seconds, the Grubs coming up as well soon, and that can be some really big explosive moments for both these teams.
We'll see if On can help give BLG that edge with that roaming Bard. We already saw him go out for a bit of a chime check here, but the stakes are still Elk with a sizable gold lead, grabbing himself that first blood, and ever aggressive looking for the trade. Elk, a player, our first team All-Pro AD carry, and there is no bigger test in the playoffs than going up against Viper. And it's going to be so fun to watch these two go blow for blow as the series goes on. But for now, we have the Dragon being started here by Weibo. Piercing arrow from Viper. Not going to go for the steal, and it's just going to be secured by JJ. Poke damage comes out onto Elk, but it's Weibo still playing very proactive in the early game.
And this is something that they really turned around on as well. Once they got their play back together during the mid of the split, On looking to roam up. I don't know if he knows how many people are in that bush.
Yeah, good call, Bloxer. He was not expecting to see a Zenith Blade come out of that barrage. JJ does secure away that Gromp. Shun and On shouldn't be punished too heavily for their transgressions, thanks to the fact that Elk was on that reset. But all this pressure in that jungle means that Knight is able to start garnering himself a gold lead as he nearly finds 2 early plates off of that turret. And the mind games, of course, starting.
God, Knight is such an oppressive laner. That's really been the most impressive bit of his gameplay for me. I think Xiaohu's been a little bit better during the actual team fights, but Knight gets himself so much of an advantage straight out of the laning phase that he then is able to translate onto the rest of the map. Kind of no better champion for him to be able to do that than on this Talia. We'll see if he's going to be able to get involved on the rest of the map. Now he has ticked over to that level 7. We've got ourselves a minute and a half until the Grub spawns. Resets coming through from the mid laners, from the bot laners. I don't know if we're necessarily expecting to see the full 5 rotate up, but I wouldn't be surprised to see these supports try to get themselves a little bit of control in the bottom lane and then start moving.
Zika certainly against top lane traditions would also maybe try and find himself an avenue to leave the lane, but back over to why this Yorick pick works is you can see that Zika has constantly been farming under his turret, especially now that Ben has access to that Maiden. So the early thing to track for top lane is going to be how does Zika find himself a way out. Is On is looking for a nice little tether into the chains of corruption. It has to force out the barrier from Elk. There are no ultimate on this Yunara, but Elk is able to walk back out thanks to Urha's peel, and now Xiaohu and JJ, they're looking for the realm warp in. Shun is in the area, but this is a 4v3, and now a 4v2 is Viper and On are going to use the portal to get themselves all the way out. On gets knocked up and hit into the rune prism, but he still doesn't take enough damage. Finally, Elk will step up and find that second kill. Good little try there from On with the Bard trickery, but it's a 2-0 Elk Yunara to open our game.
And this is exactly what you didn't want to have happen early on for BLG, falling behind in the bottom lane and just not able to get involved in that play at all. Knight, he sticks around in the mid lane, tries to push through a wave, then go and roam down, and he's just too late to even pop the Weaver's Wall. Yes, he's going to be able to push this full wave in under a tower, maybe pick himself up a second turret plate, but that is not going to be worth it for getting Elk another kill. And this is all off of the back of some very early aggression coming through out of the BLG bot lane. The problem is, when the scoreboard was up, you could see the items sat in Viper's inventory. He had a serrated dirk and a longsword, I think, maybe a blade. Just no real damage available to him at this point, and at least you've got yourself the portal. I really like this from Viper as well. He waits a really long time to take that portal so that he doesn't also get knocked up. Yes, your support still dies, but at least you don't lose 2 kills.
Yeah, that's the support's job. Dying for your AD carry. That's like job number 1 of this role description. It's still, though, definitely worrying for BLG. All we said during draft was very small window of effectiveness early to mid-game. And being behind gold in general is going to be that big problem, but luckily for Billy Gaming, their solo lanes have done some of the heavy lifting here, both sporting gold leads of their own, and mostly doing that through turret plates or maybe a creative dive here with cease and desist up. That cancel back might screw over Zika, but it's okay. JJ's here to cover. Weaver's Wall comes across, and hey, still a numbers advantage over BLG. There is the slicing Maelstrom. The stuns land, but the seismic shove comes across first, and Knight's able to flash out despite the turret aggro. They won't find the second kill onto JJ, but the fact they're able to come away with a 1-0 dive like that is promising.
There we go, and the kill also going over to Knight, exactly where you want that gold to be. I'm glad that we get to see some early on aggression out of BLG to counter what Weibo was able to do on the map. Still, they end up very low health off the back of that play, and they know JJ is in the area, so nobody goes straight towards those grubs, and we may well get another fight at these in the next couple of seconds.
We'll have to see here. It's going to be a lot harder for Weibo. The fact that they don't have that Slicing Maelstrom ultimate. But you did lose Weaver's Wall and cease and desist, so we'll have to see here. It is Shun. And the flashes, of course, right? Shun, though, is still going to take his time and start up the grubs. This was spotted by Weibo. They at least saw him take the skull. They have to think, all right, he could go after the grubs right after, but Jeje instead clearing out some vision in the mid lane. They're going to catch on, trying to roam on over. Zenith Blade's going to bring Erha over the portal. He puts down the Solar Flare as well. On going to get rooted up thanks to Xiao, who should be able to find this very critical kill. So BLG dominating the top side, but it's Weibo's scaling units that have all 3 kills.
I like the mind games right there. As BLG, you're expecting to have a couple members of Weibo roam up to try to... Hang on, Jun. Get himself in pretty deep, potentially looking for another dive right here. Zika, yeah, he recognizes that he probably doesn't want to step up too close now. Still, he has to catch this wave or he's going to be so far behind.
Yeah, but with Slicing Maelstrom, it makes a dive even 2 versus 1 very, very cautious.
How about 3?
So they make it a 3v1. Yeah, good call there, Blocks. They're going to bring Knight right back on over. Zika's going to go into the Lightning Rush to get some move speed. Good dodge on that first Q, but it's the seismic shove of Knight that is the death warrant of Zika, no matter how much of a miss that was from Shun.
Yeah, I mean, we could say miss, we could say dodge. Either way, it's still just going to be the door slamming shut with Knight right there. And I really like what BLG are doing. They found a lane they could play through. They keep going for it. Erha looking to get aggressive. I wonder if you can wait a second. Yeah, for someone to go away.
Perfect time
Lovely.
from Erha. His Zenith Blades have been so on point. And who's going to be the real victor of it? Not just Weibo. More importantly, Xiaohu, who is now 2-0. Both of Weibo's main carries super accelerated.
And we were talking in the early game about how important it was going to be for BLG to get themselves some sort of early lead so that they can play around this slightly more aggressive composition, sit in 4v5 situations potentially, and still be able to win them with the split push coming through from Bin. Yes, they've been able to get themselves a couple of kills on tonight onto Jun, but they've not been able to stop anything Weibo wants to do so far. And I feel like we have to shout out sort of the common denominator throughout all of these Weibo kills, which has been Erha. Erha has been so good so far right here on this Leona, all over the map, and I love that little bit of tech right there. Just wait a second. They probably didn't press their B button at exactly the same time, and if you can catch one alone, you guarantee the kill.
Erha was a player that, you know, a lot of us Bloxer last year were sort of upset to see him lose out on that starting spot with Weibo. We thought he was pretty impressive in his short time, so it's been really nice to see him earn that spot back, or I guess get the spot back he much deserved, right, Bloxer? And continue that improvement as we're still looking for a lot of these younger supports to take over the mantle a lot of historical support leaders have had in the LPL for years to come.
Him and Vampire have been sort of the players you've been really watching ascend, rise into this next level of their careers, but sat here with Erha, such a player who, yeah, like you said, he really didn't get that fully deserved chance, we felt like, and it meant that coming into this split, there were some pretty high expectations, and there was also just a lot of excitement around the Weibo team that didn't come through in the first couple of weeks. But again, as much as we've been talking about Xiaohu really getting comfortable again and finding his form, it feels like Erha has really come into his own as well. And as much as we've been praising Elk, you deserve to get praise as Elk. You can never ignore the support playing alongside him.
Yep, you certainly can't. As On wants to take center stage, hits the Temper Fate onto Xiaohu. Good flash, though, this time gets himself out of the seismic shove. We'll see if Billy can revisit that key cooldown off of the Weibo mid laner.
And that's just going to be a repeat gank angle if you can look for it. You've obviously got quite a lot of aggressive picks from BLG that can go try to hunt onto Xiaohu if he finds himself stood a little bit too far forwards. We've now got ourselves a minute until the Rift Herald is going to be popping up, and you'd love to be able to grab yourself the Rift Herald right here as BLG. Begin taking down these towers, unlock Bin to get himself into some other lanes, and just keep the pressure on going.
Oh my god.
Elk.
He had no clue. He must have been sitting in that brush for nearly a minute, and Elk is going to burn his barrier flash and ult. He had no idea until he was dead. Great find there between Shun and Knight.
That was just so sneaky. They didn't manage to get in behind him. And as much as you say, hey, you're waiting in a bush for a while, that's definitely going to be worthwhile. The flash right there, I think, is quite bold.
Yeah.
Maybe you get away. It does burn Jun's flash as well, but this is a Vi. Vi does not care about flash anywhere near as much as this Yunara is going to. And with a very critical bit of the mid game coming up right now, we've got a Rift Tower coming up in 30 seconds time. You've got the next Drake in a minute and 30 seconds time. You're now not going to have this flash for these two big fights that could well be game defining.
Oh, that was a game defining turret take. First turret down thanks to Bin. And we're starting to settle into that classic BLG playstyle. It kept them even in those kills, but it's really the objectives, both in turrets and monsters, that have really set them apart here. It's kind of perfect, right, Blockster? Exactly how these two drafts we wanted to see them play out. It's a lot of turrets and, Void Grubs and Heralds here on the top side. Oh, hold on. This TP, oh man, Bin. No idea that both Urha and JJ are here. He flashes out of at least a Solar Flare, gets trapped in the Cataclysm, but the turret's doing a lot of work here. Xiaohu down about half HP there to TP Zika in with the Slicing Maelstrom. 3 versus 1 wasn't good enough. 4 versus 1 will get the job done.
Yeah, just a little bit of a brain switched off moment right there from Bin. He's going to die down in the bottom side of the map. Still, it does mean that you concede out onto the Rift Herald, and you lose out onto your mid lane and top lane towers during the course of those plays as well. Very much a split coming through on the map. BLG in firm control of the top side at the moment. Weibo, a lot better spot down on the bottom side of the map, but they get themselves that kill, do Weibo. Get a couple of resets coming on through. Key first items completed, well on the way to second items as well. This is kind of the point at which Weibo are beginning to want to fight as more than just individual picks, but more as a unit.
Well, this is a big point here for Weibo, though. That conversation I was trying to have earlier about how the game's going well for both teams, and this Dragon take would be big. Tempered Fate fromOni's going to stall it out. Knight puts down the Weaver's Wall. Herald's in here, so Shun get himself out, but can he win the 50-50? No! It's Elk that secures the Dragon. Shun goes in with a cease and desist, but he doesn't have any help. Xiaohu and Elk just turn it right back onto him. Through the portal goes JJ, maybe a bit too audaciously. He's going to flag a dragon and flash himself back out. Ziki hits a huge piercing arrow. Flashes forward coming across here from On. Gets the kill onto JJ. Slow starting to stack. Xiao, who has to run with the phase rush. And Viper can't get close enough for any of these big piercing arrows. And Weibo are able to get themselves onto Soul Point for the small price of their jungler.
Well, we'll see what the full price is going to be in the end. Rift Herald on into the mid lane is actually going to be ridden right here by Viper. He thinks he can take Elkon in this situation. Is correct. It's just going to be able to walk away. Not fully able to take down this tower. They will get bot lane tower too. And we'll have a look back at this fight, because this fight should be won very easily by Weibo. They're very much getting into the point where their composition is starting to be strong. BLG are a little bit stronger. The smite fight is just a mistimed smite. It's good from Elk to be able to grab it. The key thing here, though, is look at where Bin is. He is not in the fight at all. Look at where Bin is in our picture-in-picture. He's in the grey screen.
Yep. And this is really going to hurt that sort of X factor of the comp, right? We needed this Yorick to be powerful in pulling Weibo's teamfight comp away.
Yep.
But that death, not being there at this big fight, it's worrying, because the gold's even, and now Weibo, I mean, they have the full bouquet of scaling factors on the scaling team, right?
Yep, very much so. And you haven't really gotten yourself any kind of advantage right here as BLG. It is pretty much a dead even in terms of the gold, which, usually you're happy to be dead even in gold versus Weibo, but they've got themselves the scaling of all of the Drakes. You were able to get the Rift Herald and the Grub, so that is at least something. Urha knows that something is up in this team, in this bush. Okay.
And that's the big. But how many more members are behind Shun? That's the real question. Yep, it's everybody but Bin. Please don't fight over a red buff.
Whoa.
All right, Urha wants to do it. He goes in, is going to get stunned up, chained up from Viper. The Tempered Fate lands on Xiaohu and JJ in the background. Good play there from On. Cease and Assist comes across into the Seismic Shove combo. Great little pick to find there by On. Does he go too far forward the portal? He runs into Elk, fully transcended, who gets the free hit on the Knight, but there isn't enough damage to make that a punish. Great find from On and BLG to clap right back.
You say great find, and I mean, they did capitalize well on what they were presented, but classic LPL moment right here from Weibo. Urha decides, yeah, we're going to go fight over the red buff. Now they're going to try to turn things around, and Bin, he should have known that something was coming. He's been here for so long.
I mean, yeah, he needs to understand that he is the clear only play left. All of BLG are on the top side. And that is one of the big problems we've had with some of Bin's gameplay this year, getting caught for very little. At the very least, Viper redeems it by getting a very valuable Tier 2 turret down. So, gold-wise, it actually ends up still in BLG's favor thanks to Viper.
It does indeed, and Weibo, they're lucky to have it be as even as it was after deciding to fight over a red buff for almost no reason. I think the only reason they were able to take that fight at the point at which they did was because there was still 1 minute and 20 seconds on the Baron. If you do that fight a little bit later on, you just immediately lose the Baron, and any semblance of a start you were getting together as Weibo was just going to immediately run away from them. Still, we take stock of things 20 minutes into the game as Baron joins us on the Rift. Small gold lead for BLG. Soul point though for Weibo, and a composition with 2 items completed pretty much across the board now that is fully getting online.
Yeah, Bloxer Elks Yunara is not far away from being game warping, and that is obviously the worrying trend here for BLG. It makes this Marksman matchup so fun. It's what Elk has been able to do in these late game scenarios. You talked about it for Viper when we did the this or that bit, how he's been so on point when it comes to late game team fighting, but you would argue that our Marksman matchup on the other side is the very same as On. Another Tempered Fate going to grab Xiaohu. Urha trying to play bodyguard, not letting anyone forward. On had himself a get out of jail free portal, as I like to call it, so that Tempered Fate won't manifest in anything further.
Now, and it's on a relatively short cooldown at this point as well, so you should have this one back up and available for the Drake fight. Worth throwing out in a lot of situations. More importantly, with all of the pressure we're able to push forwards right there, look at all of the vision down in the bottom side. BLG well and truly in control of the bottom side of the jungle. The same could be said for Weibo on the top side, but the Baron isn't really either of these teams' focuses right now. And for a BLG down soul point, it's so important to body block Weibo out of this quadrant of the map as much as possible.
Weibo know that this could really be the cherry on top of their scaling composition if they can pick up this dragon. They're trying to force their way in through the bottom side, but the flanks have already been set up. Look how high up Shun is. They spot Zika on the mid wave. So BLG have to feel pretty confident that they have control around this pit. Do they want to try and force a fight? They know it's 4v5 before that TP can come across. At the very least, they're going to start up the dragon. Bring the aggro on over. JJ, the king of steals, it feels like in this LPL split. Can he go for this one? Weaver's Wall's going to block him. They go after On instead. And Weibo, I think they're just going to sack this dragon. JJ goes for it, does not get it, and pays with his life. Too little, too late there from JJ. And it might cost Weibo a whole lot more than Soul Secure.
Yeah, I mean, this turnaround instantaneously from BLG heading straight on towards the Baron. You can see resets coming on through. It's quicker to just head back to base and sprint back out with home guards. Now, as much as you have lost your jungler, you can potentially still fight this one. Realm Warp in, they're going to go.
Yeah, they don't have Zika's TP for the flank. He's going to try and walk his way in. They don't have a smite. They have to look for this fight over thanks to the resistance shred. Zika needs a big slicing maelstrom. He's going to try and go in, gets the flash, goes after Viper, immediate cleanse. Viper is out. Baron secure for BLG as the fight begins to break out. Big piercing arrow onto Zika. Xiaohu trying to kite back. Elk needs to do a lot of heavy lifting here, but Zika's already down. Elk tries to go after Oppo, uses the blast cone to get himself back out. Urha's down. All of Elk's teammates are falling around him, and there's nothing he can do to clean it up. It's On fighting the multi-kill, and Billy Gaming breaking open game one with an ace.
There we go, BLG. They find the fight, and it looked so bad for a second. Weibo were storming in. They'd taken a reset. They had all of the tools available to them, but the fight gets split, and there was no way to be able to fight through that one. As Weibo, you just are pulled in too many different directions, and Elk, he can't pick one target to just shred down. When we get the replay, look at who he hits. It's one auto attack onto someone, one auto attack onto someone else. And it's just so rough. Zika, he finds the big fight, but the flash cleanse is available, so you're able to get yourself away as Viper. And then here, just watch what Elk is doing. He takes a good chunk out of On, but that's the support. He gets one hit right here onto Bin. Bin's able to turn around and walk away. He gets another hit onto On. He gets another hit onto Bin. There's no ability for him to just get a kill, and at this point, all of the remaining members of BLG form in and just stun him up, take him down.
It felt like a culmination of errors that just got worse and worse, right? That dragon fight, there's no reason for JJ to throw his life away to try and get Soul when they have so many more chances. It leads into the Baron, and now all of a sudden, BLG are up 6k gold and counting, knocking down turret after turret. And despite all of their woes in the early game, the part of the game where we felt they had to succeed in, they are now right where they wanted to be, in control of our first match.
25 minutes into the game, this is the peak of the BLG composition power. Now with the Baron buff available to them, they need to make sure they crack open the base and get themselves as much advantage as possible because, as we've been saying, right, Weibo, they have the scaling advantage. They're going to be getting further and further back into this game, but right now as BLG, you are in control, and you just have to make sure not to make any silly mistakes. Silly mistakes are why Weibo are in the position that they are in. You said about that play down in the bottom side of the map around the dragon, and that was a bad play from them, but it's even further than that. It's fighting around that red buff for no reason that initially snapped any control they had. Good dodge from Araha.
Yeah, he's going to bring Solar Flare back out. JJ's going forward, but they've rooted up Elk, and they've trapped him. A beautiful Chains of Corruption. Viper says no need for your hyper carry. They do find a kill in the background. Urha very low as well. And it's Yahoo going right after Viper. He gets the Rune Prism down. He has the Seraph Shield to find that turn. Weibo doing some heavy lifting without their 80 carry, but now they're sectioned off 2 parts apiece. JJ going to do flag and drag, but Bin slams him down with the shovel, and he's going to hunt him down with the ghouls and the maiden. Bin's revenge saves a messy fight for Billy Big Gaming.
Oh my lord, we were talking so much praise right here for Elk, but that's now 2 team fights in a row that he's not able to have the impact that he needs, and that is going to be the base cracked on open. Another one of the goals we've talked about for BLG winning this game has been ticked off, and with the resets coming on through, you have to imagine third item's going to be completed pretty much across the board.
Still a lot of stall value here for Weibo. As we go back through, I mean, does this feel like Weibo looking for something too aggressive?
I understand why you're looking for this fight right here. It's just that seismic shove just immediately ruins the team fight. Imagine if Elk is hitting right here. Look at this slicing maelstrom. It wrecks a couple members of BLG. If you've got any damage available from Elk whatsoever, this is potentially a one team fight for you. I don't think the engage is the wrong decision. You just have to have those faster reflexes, fancier feet. You die with flash up right here. That's just not good enough.
Then it's just the big man with his own army walking through the rest of Weibo. Xiaohu does a really good job to kill off Viper for that play, but Weibo are just still feeling like a fish out of water in this game. 7k gold deficit, but it is worth mentioning they don't lose an inhibitor, and they have dragons that they can trade for more time on the map to get more of those items through. So we still aren't. I still don't feel like Blockster that this is like a done and dusted BLG game.
No, very much not, and Weibo have shown us that they can fight back from almost any position. This is not a team who you put down early and then just are able to walk on over. This team can fight back, and BLG, they've shown us a couple throws here and there, right? No gold lead is fully out of range in the LPL. So you do have to very much keep on watching this one, as Weibo, they're going to be looking for any available opportunity to go on in, and Elk, he's going to be feeling like he needs to redeem himself, right? 2 team fights in a row, getting caught out, not able to play well for his team. For a man of his caliber, he's very much going to be looking for that next opportunity to pop off with the Yunara.
Maybe having Urha with him will help him. Thanks that Mikhails can get you out of a Chains of Corruption. Some other stuns coming across from Knight. Urha obviously has been very good at looking for these aggressive finds, but into a pick comp, I wonder if they'll try and have him play more protection versus engage for Urha, with the fact that BLG will be pushing forward. Back to your point, though, about, you know, gold leads are never safe in the LPL. I mean, just last night, if you were on the broadcast, we ran a lower third, highlighting JDG's ability in the playoffs alone to throw gold leads. So maybe we'll see if it's just a JDG thing, but I feel like it's just an LPL playoffs thing. So keep that in mind.
It's an LPL thing. We have seen some egregious throws all throughout the years. Oh, Jun, gay, blast cones. This is why I think that the Chemtech Rift is my favorite. As much as the buff itself is a bit meh, I love the extended blast cones. I love the better versions of the healing plants. I think that's all very fun to play around. And I think BLG have to agree. They've been using these blast cones to great effect so far to get out of some pretty dicey situations.
I mean, On really defines that first Baron fight by getting away from Elk. With that blast cone himself. Yeah, it's a whole different fight, right? But in reality, we have our second Baron on the map here, and the split push really starting to affect Weibo's ability to try and play both sides of the map. Bin is going to get right back on this bottom lane wave and push it right up to that inhibitor turret, so Zika has to come over with TP, but it's that push and pull really starting to settle in here for BLG now.
I mean, every single time Zika tries to go join up with the rest of his team, he has to go catch this wave. You give a Yorick any alone time with a tier 3 tower, and you're going to end up with no inhibitor, and then you don't even have to potentially push that wave. You could just sit and allow it to happen. Knight. Oh, he hits it.
Xiaohu has to flash over the Weaver's Wall, and they get Zika's TP to come across here towards this top side.
Oh, boy.
No kills, but that's immensely valuable to this stretchy play from BLG. Bin will go right back towards the bot side.
And I love that roam up into the mid lane from Bim right there. He pushes that mid wave through, so you have to take more time to clear the mid wave, then move down to the bottom wave, and by the time you get there, he's going to be able to push that bot wave through as well. You are really getting pulled around the map. I mean, when the Yorick was picked, we were both like, I'm not so sure. I'm never sure of a Yorick. I think a lot of teams play it badly, but I often say, hey, if you're not Bin, don't pick it. Well, you are Bin in this situation, and so far, so good.
The math is checking out on that one.
Indeed.
Bin is certainly finding his peak effectiveness right now as he is playing decoy, dummy on the bot side, push, because my team is pushing the attack onto this Baron. And Weibo, I mean, they have an inkling.
Is he just gone?
But JJ doesn't get anywhere near this. The tempered fade from On is perfectly timed just in case there was any sort of 50-50. BLG are going to get this Baron. Weibo are going to make it a problem to try and get a fight on the backside, but it's a portal out from On, and BLG can just exit stage right. Weibo really sputtering to find any sort of play on the map. They're going to trade a Baron for a tier 1 turret mid lane.
Yeah, and I mean, they might get collapsed upon right here. Need to be careful to get away. They don't even pick themselves up this mid lane tier 1 tower. And Jun Huntin potentially looking to just press ulti and go flying in. Needs to be careful. Pretty squishy at the moment, although, of course, it does have the GA.
Yeah. You kind of throw caution to the wind when you pick up the GA. Still looking forward. Knight gets the Weaver's Wall down, but all the carries get on the right side of it. And we'll back up towards the base, but BLG, they are not letting off the gas. They are putting pedal to the metal as they'll finally look to try and knock down some inhibitors. And, well, they've got a wave aptly placed in the top side as well. Weibo will sack the mid lane inhibitor to try and protect these side turrets, but, again, they're going to stretch thin. Top turret is going to stay up, but bottom tier 3 goes down. Are they going to look for a play onto Bin? No, Zika doesn't even get close enough with that lightning rush. Weibo are just bleeding, and at some point, when are you going to fight back as that cornered animal?
Look at the poke coming through right here. Between Knight and Viper, they are constantly landing that
Elk.
poke.
They get onto Elp, and Zika goes forward with a huge slicing maelstrom. Viper has to cleanse, flash himself back out. The Cataclysm goes down, onto On. Zika finds that first kill, and now Elk can step up. He's starting to pump up the damage with his Transcendence. Sun goes into the stasis, but he is as good as dead. BLG, they poked the beast a little bit too much, and now Weibo are looking for more. There's the Realm War forward, but a huge piercing arrow from Viper makes it a problem. JJ gets the flag and drag. Bin knocked up. Elk finally joining the fight, trying to be the big damage, but Viper gets Xiao over the wall, and Bin flashes out to safety. Everybody overexerting themselves, but Weibo may have gotten themselves a lifeline in their own base.
Yeah, they're going to sprint on out there looking to pick themselves up this soul point. Still, look in their base right here. They've got super minions knocking on the doors. The TP, they're going to look to end.
TP coming across. That spin, he's going all the way after the base, and Viper stalling out all of Weibo. They gambled after the dragon, and they're going to trade soul for the game. Gigabin with the Giga TP to get BLG a 1-0 lead.
Oh, Slayer, when we said that this was going to be a banger of a game, when we said it was going to be a banger of a game, holy. I mean, that couldn't have ended better.
Oh, Blockster, why have we had another soul for game trade, man? We can't keep doing this.
It's worth it, bro. It's worth it.
Yeah. They didn't even get it. They didn't even get it. Man.
Oh.
What a game. What a start. I mean, how else do you react to that?
Yeah. Yeah, this is what you tune into the LPL for, right? This is the kind of games that you're looking for. This is what we were expecting out of the BLG Weibo series, but God, that has to be extra upsetting right here if you are Weibo, because you're sat in a situation where, yeah, the early game wasn't, you found a couple kills, but you weren't able to get yourself too much of a lead. That's fine. The mid game was going bad. You make a couple of bad mistakes. Okay, whatever. You're probably thinking, we're going to lose this game, but we know what we need to do right for the next game. But then Zika finds that moment, and that should have been fully a win. I don't know if we're going to see a replay because of everything that happened, but the decision right at the end from Weibo to go for that fight is good, but the realm walk forward, it doesn't take enough members. You only end up taking JJ and Erha with you, I think, and they don't deal anywhere near enough damage to be able to do anything.
Well, it was JJ and Xiaohu, but it was Viper. We'll see in the replay, right? But it was Viper over the wall out of fog that hits a huge empowered piercing arrow that takes out Xiaohu that ruins it. But the conversation I want to have with you, Bloxer, about that whole thing, and the caveat being it's the heat of the moment, right? When you win a fight, you want to like take everything on the map. But if Weibo, is it just better in your mind if they win that fight in their base and then you say, all right, we've got waves to cover, we've got gold to spend. It's not even soul secure for them. It's not even soul point for BLG if we go after that dragon. Would it have just been better if they take their win and play for another battle?
Very much so. I mean, obviously, the way it worked out as we saw it was the worst possible option because you don't get the soul and you do just die and you don't even find that fight. But there's a lot of different decisions all involved in that one right there. You needed the initial fight, and it was huge from Zika to be able to get that slicing maelstrom into the backline. This is what you pick the champion for. We've seen Bin have a pretty good game overall on that Yorick. He got caught on the sidelines a couple of times, but Bin's been known for that throughout this split and kind of his whole career at certain points. But that initial fight is really good. Then you can decide, let's not keep pushing forwards. If you do decide to keep pushing forwards, you have to full commit. The fact you only get 2 people taking that realm warp is not good enough. You have 4 members still available. All of them have to take that portal and go to try and get involved. And then at the end, not recognizing that you've got yourself super minions in base, even if they hadn't had that teleport come in from Bin, I think the super minions might still win the game.
I mean, I'm trying to think back. I think once he actually landed, they had taken the second Nexus turret down.
Yes,
so I think you're right.
They were
it
just hitting the tower. Like they were just hitting the Nexus. The Winions may well have come through either way. Still, looking at this screen quickly, holy moly, the amount of damage that Viper did. That poke was disgusting.
I mean, you just can't give a guy this caliber Varus. No. You just can't. And you got to think for a guy like Viper, right? He comes in to this year, and he's heralded, including by myself, as like the messiah to bring the championship, a world's championship, back to the LPL on another stacked team that is already known to get pretty close to their own world title. And what happens at Split 1? He doesn't even perform as the best AD carry. You got to think, you got to feel slighted, right? And it's already starting to show up in this matchup, especially that one catch he makes onto Elk at the base fight towards the top side. Man, Viper's playing with a vengeance.
He very much is, but it was the full just poke coming down constantly that was so good, and it's the fact that Knight also was hitting constantly onto his opponents as well. A few seismic shoves out of Knight as well that kind of sealed the deal. One that he was able to land onto Elk that ruined what was looking like a pretty good team fight for Weibo. And the fact that you've got these 2 superstars between Knight and Viper playing together so well is super exciting to see. If you're just a general LPL fan rather than a specific fan of any team and you just want an LPL team to take home a title, BLG feel like the sort of team, as you were saying, that could potentially do that. Looking through these replays right here, I'm struck time and time again by how much Elk just wasn't quite able to turn it on in any of these fights.
I don't think he's going to get player of the game, and there were some spots where I think Olin does stuff shaky, but I love how he embodied the Bard vibe, where it's like, I am the peskiest guy on the Rift. Like, he always like, no, you're not going to get me. I've got a blast card, I've got a portal, I'm going to stun you on the way out, I'm going to find you with these tempered fates. I'm just so glad, Bloxer, that our region is showing off such high-level Bard gameplay.
Yeah, the fact that the Bard has been all over the map at this point, and you get to see it in so many different games, is really fun, because good Bard play and bad Bard play are very close. I think Bard play might be the thinnest line between good and bad, and this was a lot of good. Still, this situation right here, we have to talk about it. This is the turning point.
Let's see the portal, because, that's... like.
Why do you do it like this?
So they had themselves 3 kills... But I mean, bam, look at that piercing arrow Bloxer. It's this one over the wall, too.
Yes, this one.
It's perfectly timed, I bet, too. Oh, it was the chains. It was the E. It wasn't even the Q. And you were right. The supers got the Nexus turrets down before. Man, they made Bid's life pretty easy.
Yeah, Bin just needed to turn up, hit Nexus a couple of times, plus 50 gold. Like, that was not going to be a good play for Weibo, whatever happened. And that does worry me a little bit. We were talking a lot about how Weibo was shaky at the start of the split, really got their feet under them. But what was happening in the start of the split was both Xiaohu playing bad individually in lane, that didn't happen in this game, he was fine, but their team play overall was shaky. It felt like the communication just wasn't there. I felt like they had cleaned it up, but this game was quite reminiscent of the start of the split.
All right, player of the game, Bloxer. Do you think you're going to give it over to Viper?
I feel like Viper is a very, very easy choice right here. He was just constantly landing all of that damage. Good chains of corruptions. He only got caught once down in the bottom lane. Other than that, was constantly playing out pretty safe. I like your call of On, though. On really did have himself a very fun Bard game.
I also think like Knight, I didn't see him miss like a single clutch seismic shove, and it's that classic
Talia performance though. Like,
yeah, I know, but here's the problem is like it's people call it voter fraud. It's like Knight just plays at such a high level. Wow, okay, they give it a bid. Okay, I guess he does win them the game, so you can't get mad at him getting this player of the game. I don't know. I see a pretty disappointed look from you, Blocks.
That's one of the least ethical player of the games I think I've ever seen. Like, he does do a lot of damage in that game, and at the point in which he hits 2.5 items, he's just a drain tank. He is so annoying to play against. You watch that one fight where he's just chasing poor Xiaohu round in circles, and there's nothing that Xiaohu can do, but he gets caught on bot lane twice. In one of those team fights that Billy Gaming ended up losing, he didn't go top lane to split push, and he didn't join the team fight. He had the worst of both worlds going on.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad Brim performance by any means, but I'm not quite sure it was player of the game worthy.
Well, we saw in the vote split up there that it was actually pretty close. I think it was 2 votes on, 2 votes Viper, 4 votes Bin. So it seems like our committee over there couldn't really make their minds up. So you can make up your mind who the player of the game is. Let me tell you all, though, who the player of the stream is. And it's not just a one-person award. It's all of you guys at home, and it's thanks in large part to our coffee supporters. So if you'd like to support LPL English, you could consider becoming a coffee member. Coffee is the best way to support the LPL English project, since a vast majority of your contributions will go directly into the show itself. A lot of the initial payments go into upgrading the broadcast, but a huge bulk of it pays on-air talent and content creators. Subscribe to our coffee, it is linked in the chat below, to unlock perks like early access to content and the ability to ask interview questions for our unique on-site interviews. So shout out all of our coffee supporters. You are the player of the stream. So I want to give you that award. We've had one player of the game go down, and God, Bloxer, the most chaotic start that we could think of to this series. And I wouldn't have it in any other way, but we've got a lot longer of a road forward. We're going to take a short break, allow you guys some time to peruse the coffee menu. And when we get back, we'll see if Weibo Gaming have a response to a catastrophic Game 1 finish in our Best of 5 series. Back in a flash here on LPL English as we are underway in our upper bracket matchup for a date with JDG, which will come to either Weibo Gaming or Billy Gaming. And the way game one started, BLG get the win. They control a good amount of that game, but
yeah,
if you missed it, I don't really think it's given any indication on who's going to win the series, to be real with you, Bloxer.
No, I mean, a bit of an odd one overall. If you're sat in the break as Weibo, you're all looking at each other going, what were we doing? Like, did we get off the bus today? Why did we make a couple of decisions we make, right? There's the fight around the red buff where Arho just decides to go flying in for practically no reason, particularly upsetting when we'd just been praising him and his gameplay throughout the earliest bits of that game and the rest of the split. Caster Curse coming through almost instantaneously. There's decisions to go fight around Drakes that you just don't need to go for, specifically JJ flying in to try steal away a buff at the point at which the Baron is up. That's fine. 5 minutes into the game, 10 minutes into the game. There's nothing else to go play for as a jungler. You lose out on a couple of camps. It's not good, but it's not the end of the world. But doing it at the exact moment at which there's a Baron up as well is just losing out onto your team. And then it's just a couple of the team fights, the realm warp forwards as well. These moments, whereas Weibo, you go back, you quickly watch through the tape of this game, and you go, right, if we just lock in, if we think about what we're doing a little bit, get the communication a little bit smoother, that game should look completely different.
I really hope, the discussion we had after that game, I hope, the coaching staff goes back. And the message, on top of what you're saying, Bloxer, is, play to the strengths of our drafts. Because, again, I really just felt like, yes, it did suck that even when they were down like 6K gold, they had multiple inhibitors down, like, they still were able to stall out with dragons. They could have farmed up, and they had a much better scaling comp. Even before, like, JJ throws himself for that soul dragon, again, like, that's a spot where you can give those dragons because we felt like their composition, the later a game goes, would be more and more powerful. So I hope with what you're saying, they also kind of accept the fact that if we're going to draft a certain style, let's not panic and break out of the mold.
Yeah, exactly. If you've got yourself a composition that plays really good late game, okay, you can find yourself some early ganks, and they were able to punish Bin on a couple of pushes a little bit too far forward as well, but you don't need to be overly aggressive into a couple of different situations. If Weibo are able to just take a breath and come into this next game in the form they were in towards the end of the split, they should be okay to at least pick themselves up a game right here. For BLG, though, you've got to be very, very happy with the way that game plays out. You know, a little bit of a moment right at the very end of the game, but every time it felt like they were cornered, they fought their way out so beautifully.
Yeah, and, it was just this, new makeshift bottom lane that was so immensely valuable. I do think that, again, we're so used to how well Knight plays compared to anybody else in the LPL, so when he has a really good game, we're like, yeah, okay, we've seen it before, but it was a really masterful Talia performance, as much as you want to, talk about maybe, Bloxer will say, like, it's Talia, right? But
no. Ours Talia is just about, it doesn't look impressive.
Oh, okay.
You have done so much on this champion. Those seismic shells were gorgeous. Talia just never feels like it's doing that much, unfortunately. And your Knight with such a high ceiling we expect, that combined, yeah, you have to have one hell of a game for anybody to look at you as being that MVP.
Well, speaking on the mid lane matchup, right, as we get set for this Game 2 draft, we saw in our initial picking of champions that of the first four bans, 3 of them were Orianna, Aurora, and Azir. And that got us that Talia Ryze matchup, but now Talia Ryze is kind of the end of the top upper echelon of mid laners that are automatically always picked in the LPL. So, Bloxer, I'm curious as we get into the second draft phase, already I'm seeing a lot less mid lane priority because both of these teams, I feel like, want to get those other priority mid laners into this game too.
Yeah, very much. With banning everything out in the first game, it allowed us to have a lot of those top tier mid laners coming through in the next set. I'm not particularly surprised to see the Orianna taken off of the board. I do wonder if we're going to get another ban coming on through towards this mid lane to sort of round things out for us. The Karma ban is interesting. The Karma and the Poppy bans together tells me that there could potentially be something pretty interesting coming through from Weibo, potentially something with a lot of mobility that you're trying to play through in the bottom lane. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, Poppy and Rel both feel like pretty big counters to a champion like Rel. Poppy and Karma, sorry, are both big counters to Rel. We'll have to see though. The Nico ban comes across, and Weibo are going to pick up the Aurora. They had access to something like an Azir, but they'll go after the Aurora nonetheless. Xiao, who's champion that if you missed it in their first series for Weibo, had a pentakill on, so can't hate that logic.
very worth going back and watching that game. It was a particularly fun one to get to see, and it is something that Weibo have been liking to play towards quite a lot. The response out of BLG usually is for them to pick themselves up a jungler and an ADC early on. They do really like to just get Vipers situated as quickly as possible, and in this game it is going to be going on towards the Ashe. Now the Ashe is in an interesting spot right now where if you're feeling like a sniper with those enchanted crystal arrows, you can completely take over a game, and it allows you to have a lot more commit to engage elsewhere that can go flying in on top of that enchanted crystal arrow. I would really like to see something like the Xin Zhao or the Malphite here. I think those two are the best pairings that you get alongside the Ashe. It both gives you that protection for it and the follow-up onto those engages.
You're saying all the smart things, Bloxer. I still think why we put Viper on Ashe. Me. Boring.
Well, you don't want to watch him click 20,000 times per team fight to perfectly position his champion. That's not the high skill ceiling you're looking for.
Nah, man, I want him to have 8 billion dashes and blink around all the enemies as he does 8 billion damage. Yeah, so, it's a best of 5. We'll get at least, if BLG win this game, one more Viper game to see him pick a bit more of a movement-based champion. But the Ashe brings a lot of the value that you were talking about here as we get another staple jungle matchup here. Xin Zhao versus that Pantheon. But with JJ on the Pantheon, want to see, it feels like Weibo are going to try and get out on the map and look for those pick plays early, like BLG were doing in Game 1.
Yeah, they've clearly said, hey, sitting back and just allowing the game to come to us didn't work so well for us, so let's try to push the pace of this game forwards just a little bit further. I think they probably want to grab themselves something on into the... Ooh, I was going to say potentially take your ADC at this point, but no, going to completely change pace and just go towards the Renekton up in the top lane. One of those picks that you can be pretty safe on overall already. You're going to have things like the Ambessa taken off of the board and the Rumble banned away, so you're pretty open to grab this one up. It really does just index you further into this overall teamfight composition, and from the second rounds of picks, you're very much going to need some more dive buddies to just keep the pressure high in this one.
Well, Bloxer, I'll say this. I understand the Poppy ban now. If this was the comp Weibo we're going to want.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense right here. The fact that Karma gets taken out this early and you still haven't picked your bot lane continues to be fascinating. We'll see what Weibo decide to ban out in the next couple of rounds as BLG round out their first round with a Gnar. Now, the Gnar alongside the Xin Zhao, I like that pairing. I think that can be really fun during the team fights. Still, a lot of this engage is pretty telegraphed out of BLG. Weibo, they're going to have some time to react. You know when this is all coming.
And I still really feel like, especially for BLG, I don't really, have the full understanding of what this comp could be, in the essence that there's a lot of picks they could still go with support, and mainly mid laner for Knight that I think could dictate how they want to play this game, because Ashe, Gnar, and Xin Zhao doesn't scream out something very clear, as much as like this Weibo top side is. So we'll have to see where Knight's head at is, especially. Obviously, they are the ones that are going to have a hold of that counter pick. Might not go towards Knight a lot. We do see a lot of support counter pick traded in the LPL, and with how heavy the bans are coming towards some of these supports, now with the Seraphine taken away, things are going to get slim for both On and Urha.
Yeah, I mean, both of these supports are going to have a lot less that they really like to try to play around early on available to them. I mean, at this point, the sort of top tier of supports that you're still thinking of are the Lulu, but you need a specific kind of ADC to be able to pair that up alongside. You can put it alongside the Ashe, not one of my favorite pairings for the Ashe really at all. I think you work a lot better when you can get a little bit more aggressive with it, try to play around how much poke damage you could do in the early laning phase. I think that's part of why the Karma ban looks good, even though you didn't know the Ashe was going to be picked this early on.
All right, well, I like the little logic there Blocks are trying to decipher this pick. We lose Lulu, we lose Misfortune, so this is a wonky draft. We've now taken away all non-engaged support champions in this essence. Both teams are handshaking the idea like, yeah, we don't really want to counter either support, engaged style in lane on either side, but what we do get is a repeat of Knights LeBlanc. He's gonna take this up against the Aurora, so I would say both of our mid laners are now playing their staple champions from their opening series.
Yeah, I mean, Knight pasted Care with that pickup. He was able to go, I think it was like 12-3 on that champion. He was completely taking over the game. And that is sort of the dive buddy we were talking about. Not necessarily as tanky as you would think for a dive buddy, but if you could just weave your way in and out of the fight quickly, that can be fun. And we were talking about, hey, pokey, engagey kind of supports, and they're not really being too much available in terms of non-engage options. Well, this is one potentially. For Weibo, the dives bot lane are going to be everything to them. What can you get going as early as possible?
Well, now we know why the Poppy Karma bands came out, and we did see Weibo try this. I believe it was in a Game 3. Funnily enough, the Caitlyn Elise combo that was famous for Elk and On, I mean, that's just what makes this poetic, right? Is that Elk is now saying, hey, On, I'm going to try our bottom lane that had some high highs and some low lows, and now we get to see the ingenuity here from On. He gets to match up against it, and his answer is the Shen support. What a draft, Blockster. This feels like a Game 4 or 5 Fearless draft, but no, we're Game 2.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we're going to get the Shen coming through this early on right here, we did get a single game of Shen support during the regular season, so it wasn't completely unpicked at that point. Still, it's been a long time, I feel like, since the Shen support has really been at the top tier of play. It was On that picked it up as well for himself, so he has shown it to us before. Into the Caitlyn Elise right here. I'm a little bit worried. I feel like you get pushed around quite heavily during this matchup. Still, if you are able to just get one of those taunts off and the slows that can be provided through the Ashe, that is pretty nice. Still, if you are not able to find one of those taunts, if you ever try for one and miss, yeah, you might just die.
It's a low econ bottom lane, at least for Viper and On, but you're definitely sapping the power of one of the great performers from Game 1 in Viper on this Ashe. It's a risk the BLG are willing to take for their classic solo lane strength. And we'll see if they can get themselves to a decisive 2-0 spot. Weibo just dropped their first game of the playoffs so far, albeit a very short playoff run for them yet. And BLG looking to continue an undefeated streak through these playoffs. It's all going to come down to the very familiar battle arena we all know and love. So, Bloxer, let's get set to go back to Summoner's Rift for our gaming bowl, as we like to call it, between Weibo and Billy Billy.
Let's go.
So I'm going to give it a BLG, but on the crowd cam, my one man in the glasses for Weibo, he wins the energy award. He was full head cocked back, like screaming it. So I'm just loving the playoff arena atmosphere. Hold on here. I thought Caitlyn Elise was supposed to push around the bottom lane. On gets a pretty clutch taunt, and all of a sudden Arha is down about half HP.
And this is what I was talking about, right? If you're able to get yourself a taunt off, the oppression of an early Ashe in lane is massive. That being said, you're very much expecting this to be majority push for Elk and Arha if they're able to establish a little bit of early on control. And the fight over this wave is going to be incredibly important. Getting that level 2 first could be the instant turn to try and look for an early kill if you're in a position to do so as Weibo.
Well, they're both going to get to 2 at the same time. Obviously an extra ability to Arha on this Elise, but the Cocoon's going to go wide, and Viper says, all right, On, we're stepping right up. He'll speed up. They're going to force Elk to flash away from a taunt, and the trap will not land in trade. Elk already down this flash is a problem, and they're starting to multiply, especially as Shun goes for this wraparound, and nobody's put any vision down yet. Elk is flashless. He is in imminent danger, and we'll finally realize it when it becomes Lightning. He's going to connect for the slow. Good Cocoon there from Arha. Flash forward from On. He gets the taunt onto Arha. He goes into the repel, flashes away, but Shun follows the flash to his own. First blood is found, but here comes the cavalry. JJ, how do you find this cleanup? There's a lot of summoners down, but Elk can't really step up. The vision is really bad for him. He's going to jump right on top of Shun. Can't even find that trade kill. Another trunk clutch taunt from On, and they'll go 1 for 1. Elk tries to cleanse off some of the slows from this Ashe, but Viper follows forward, and Viper finds the 3rd kill. 2.5 minutes in, we have 4 deaths on the board.
Yeah, this is a proper LPL series right here. We've got base races, we've got early kills down in the bottom lane as well in this second game. And what a set of plays right here from BLG. Great recognition that Elk and Arha are going to be trying very hard to get their early push going and establish some control in this lane. That means you should be able to get a wraparound going as Jun, kind of whatever happens. In the end, because Viper and On are able to fight back as well as they do, it's a bit of a harder play. You're quite close to the tower right here, but still, the damage between this trio of champions early on is going to be more than enough. And there's JJ right here. You've got to try for something, but as much as the health bars are kind of low, it's so hard to be able to actually pick up any of these kills. This taunt from On as well very, very nearly saves his jungler's life, and it still does guarantee them 2 kills back.
I mean, the real difference maker in that play for me, Bloxer, is the fact that so little attention gets paid to Viper. He has the bigger health bar, and as always, perfect with his slows on that Ashe pickup. And BLG are off to the races. We saw a bit of a wonky early game in game one, so we didn't get to really push the classic BLG narrative of the full court press. It's in full order now for this game two, especially now the bottom lane has a lot more of the pressure alleviated. But as I say that, JJ is looking for a dive in revenge, but Shun is here to cover.
They don't know he's
JJ
here.
Gets into the brush in time, but Shun, there he is. He went around to trick JJ. He's going to pounce on Viper, but he cleanses the stun. Oh, man. Shun and BLG are reading Weibo like a book right now.
That was really nice right there for Shun. Just knew that there was going to be more aggression down towards the bottom side of the map. Both junglers investing a lot of time down there, and it's certainly working out better for BLG. 2-0-2 now on top of Viper, on a champion that you were unexcited to watch him play. See, this is why, as much as it isn't the flashiest gameplay, it's going to be awesome.
You know about reverse jinxes. Come on. I was playing the long... Nah, I'm kidding. You're right. You caught me. You caught me. I was not excited for this Ashe pickup. But hey, he's making it work. Oh my god, guys, there are other lanes on the map showing. Has this guy even finished his clear? I mean, who needs to clear camps when you're clearing out champions? Elk dies for a second time. Shun has set up a permanent residence at this bot side.
And why not? At this point, you can just completely take over the game from there. Knight just about going to be able to flash away. Okay, that was a little bit risky right there. Xiaohu looking for a solo kill. And yeah, like you said, Slayer, there are other lanes on the map. Now, how much we're going to get to see of them, that's the real question.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a mid lane look thanks to Xiaohu with the flash combination. But with how much action has gone towards this bot side, we could talk about, again, this marquee Marksman matchup and maybe look at it historically. And, hey, you know, numbers-wise, it is pretty close. I will say this is not factoring in the current series, so to be very precise with math blocks, or Viper right now is 17-0 against Elk. And 17-10, not O. Oh my gosh. 17-10.
O would be bad. 17
O would be very bad.
Terrible. No, these two have had some truly legendary battles so far, and you have to expect you're going to get a few more of them, at least in this series, and potentially, as we were talking about earlier, in a repeat later on down the line in these playoffs. You have to love it. These two are playing as some of the best ADCs we've got in the league right now. But so far, Viper kind of had Elk's number in this one. Was just looking better with his Varus in the previous game. The poke was really nice from him overall. And was just able to hit a couple of key chains of corruptions. And now in this one, 2-0-3, already getting himself well on the way to that first completed item. And Ashe, who's ahead, is just so oppressive. A single slow hits you, and kind of what do you do?
It's so hard. You really just can't walk it off. You have to use the net, the repel, but even that can't get you out of the spot. And I want to give more praise over to On for the Shen pick, but first we're going to have a mid lane appearance. Nice chains coming across from Knight here. Xiaohu doesn't even have a chance to flash away. It's so seamless, the setup between Shun and Knight, and they've claimed themselves another kill together.
Shun has just been such a revelation right here for BLG, and I know we talk about this quite a lot every time a new jungler comes in, but in this split, he really has just looked so good at pairing up with everybody else. He roams around the map really well with Knight, he roams around the map really well with On. They get together so often to go and impact on the rest of the map, and it's nice to see it happening just in the mid lane as well. As again, we watch just as soon as a single taunt comes on through from On, you have to run away. You can't play the game as Weibo in the bot lane.
So, Bloxer, I want to use that as a moment to talk more about the Shen pickup.
Yeah.
If I keep saying talk about the Shen, will Shun just show up where I'm looking? Oh, there's the Ashe arrow. The ultimate advantage. Flash for Flash. Arha gets away this time from the top. JJ's coming in with the Grand Starvable. Shun's already taken down Elk. JJ jumps on top of Viper. Arha can't even find that trade. Viper flashes away just in the nick of time. And now JJ has no chance to find that trade kill. Knight covers for Xiaohu trying to roam down to cover for this bottom lane. But it's a toxic wasteland for Weibo. They can't do anything right on this side of the map. And it's Xiaohu that has to use the Between Worlds to once again back away from bottom lane.
Still, you do use up enough resources down on the bottom side of the map that you can't instantly turn around and go and pick up this Drake for yourselves. The resets are going to come on through for BLG, but at 8-1, just 8 minutes into this game, a 3,500 gold lead. And you're right, every time you talk about a lane, Jun appears, picks up a kill for his team, and leaves.
Man, and like you mentioned, it's now, this game is already teetering on Overville at this point. 3.5k gold lead. Sure, some of the neutral objectives haven't been picked up, but here's the main problem, Bloxer. you know, if this were game 1, we could say, oh yeah, it's a scale angle as cope. This comp doesn't scale. This Elise doesn't scale. It falls off a cliff and it's already getting battered around like this by the Shen.
Yep. It just gets worse at this point forward. Still, we have seen some Elises kind of find ways to get back into the game. You are a cocoon bot later on. That's kind of the main thing that you're really giving to your team, but that's not nothing. It is a decent piece of CC in and amongst a big messy team fight where you can pretty easily lose track of what the Elise is doing, but it is not a team composition overall that has any really good scaling. The Renekton turns into a bit of your front line with all the healing through the ulti at some point. That's something to play around.
Oh, Viper! Wow. Right on point with his sniper arrow, and JJ has to flash off of his own blue buff. At what point do we have to quarantine the entire bot half of the map for Weibo? At what point? Well, they're not done fighting yet. They're like, okay, blue buff, that's okay. Gromp, we're going to make a stand here. Or are they? Because they know On's over the wall. They don't know where Viper is. They now finally mark Knight. The Gromp's going to reset soon. Goes forward with a little bit of a Wind Becomes Lightning combo, but just a little poking and prodding. We are really fighting all out on this Gromp. Viper gets the slow arrows onto Arha. He has to go up into the rappel. He's going to come down the same spot. Cressigar going to come down from Shun. That means no, Elk. You don't get to push any damage through. It's all for my Pookie Viper, who picks up one of the 2 kills as BLG continue the route.
And it should just be this Gromp going on over the final little extra bit of gold that BLG want as they just continue to dominate this game. I mean, look at Elk right now, barely able to step himself up to the wave to try to absorb a little bit of gold. The whole rest of the map has been incredibly neglected, but it is just the bot lane game so far.
My hat goes off to On for the Shen pick. Now seeing it on the map, I realize why it's just so broken into that Caitlyn Elise, and so cool to see him understand the matchup that he's played so much. Oh, hey, Ultimate Chicken. I was waiting for it to make an appearance. Oh, it's not Ultimate Chicken. There's a top laner here. There's also a support coming, by the way. Here's On, Stand United. Hey, guys. Heard we wanted to 2v2 in this top side. And Arha thinking, all right, hold on. Support's got to be a part of this. I'm going to look for the dive. There's the cocoon landed. They're going to dive after On. He gets the taunt onto Arha. Zika flashes after Bin. Arha goes after him with the repel. They do get the kill onto On, and JJ's going to hop right on top of Bin. Weibo making things work on the side of the map they're allowed to play the game on.
Yeah, you had to just move away from Viper, who at this point is way too strong to really be dealing with. Knight as well, not able to get involved. Luden's completed for him, so he could well have been a game changer. And this is what you've got to do. To try to get back into this game as Weibo, you've just got to out-rotate on the rest of the map. Yes, you've got a Shen to try to play into, but Stand United is going to be a very long cooldown. And as JJ, you could just try rotate onto the map, take Xiaohu with you potentially if you need that extra little bit of damage, and try to pick up these kills on the side lanes. Still, they weren't able to turn around and then pick themselves up the objective, so BLG, they're going to be able to grab themselves up all 3 of these grubs as well. Oh and maybe a kill too.
The Shun Masterclass seems to have no end in sight right now. Just a little bit too far away for get Zika with another Wind Becomes Lightning, but I would like to direct our loyal viewers to the 2 inventories of our junglers right now, and give me your immediate reaction. You included, Bloxer.
Oof, that's a certified oh no moment right here, where as a jungler, you come back out onto the map, you quickly check what it is your opponent is working with, you've got some scraps together, and you have a look over on the other side, and oh no. And you've got to remember as well, these are some magical footwear in inventories too, right? So you didn't even pay for these, you have actual scraps. Finally, JJ going to be able to complete his first item, but yeah, Jun, he is all over the map right here, and he's just so far ahead. 1.6k.
And it could get even greater as this game goes on. So Weibo are thinking, again, what is our only option at this point? It's impossible to gank a LeBlanc, especially with flash up. Our only option has been, and this has been a tree-bearing fruit across our series so far. Bin was caught a couple of times on the Yorick, but it just feels like Weibo have no way to really play on this map. I mean, even, well, you can't dive Bin, especially as it goes Mega. It's impossible. JJ feels completely jailed out of this game, too. Unless Bin makes me eat my words and walks up on a mid-wave.
Bin loves walking too far forwards.
Yeah, and he's going to go mini.
JJ's playing the long game.
Yeah, he's going to pounce right as he goes mini. And you see, all right. Okay, at some point, JJ, we have to go. I mean, Zika, I know he has dominance, but you're giving away health. Guys, can we pounce on him already? Oh my god, he hopped out of stun range, and now he got back under turret. Zika's going to go after him, slice and dice, goes into the dominus, and this time we'll have enough health to get it done, but that was way closer than it needed to be. All right, Shun, Are we going to really test our power here? 1 versus 2. He's
Yeah,
going to
we
flash,
are.
get the wind becomes lightning. He goes right in after Zika Crescent Guard, but he doesn't have enough damage to get Zika. Won't be able to find that trade kill. Still wants to go 1 versus 2, cycling the cooldowns.
He's got Knight.
Boy. Here comes the big bad Knight, and Stand United on. He's like, I'm here to take up tower for you guys. Down goes Zika, and JJ will be next to fall. It was all an elaborate ruse by Shun to get BLG the real trade.
We've been talking about how good it is when BLG have got Knight onto a heavy roaming champion. Well, the LeBlanc may not have a realm warp, but can certainly move around the map really well. And with On able to join them on any of these big fights, for Weibo, you have to just turn tail and run the second that you make a play. You don't have the luxury of making a good play and then sticking around for a while. You make a play, you get a kill, you get out
TP.
instantly. Bot lane might now be under threat as well.
This is Knight. He's going to TP right into a trap, into a cocoon. Hello, Knight! That was a very audacious TP. Ben's going to run down Elk. He's going to try and flash into the brush, but that brush has vision on it. Viper's come over from the mid lane. Ben with a big Gnar bar. As TP's galore come out, Xiaohu has TP'd in from the minion wave as JJ shows up. Between worlds comes down. Xiaohu has to hop away. Only's going to flash, get the top down, and now Viper can let these arrows sing. Weibo, even when they feel like they have the punish BLG, it just feels like they're playing 6-on-5 right now.
Absolutely, the map is just so much smaller for Weibo, and JJ is also going to get tagged up by that Wind Becomes Lightning. Should just about be able to get himself under tower. Jun, though, he thinks he can keep going.
Oh my god, Shun! Turrets are just a little added speed bump in the way towards more kills. Arha's going to go down, and BLG are at an efficient kill a minute in this game, too.
And they can just keep the pace of this game high. Knight as well, taking a good chunk out of Zika. Does have himself the ultimate available, so should be able to keep stepping on forwards. Knight, bit of a weird TP down towards the bottom side of the map, but clearly not able to be punished by Weibo. Zika dead?
I mean, I know he's going to have to pop Dominus, but I mean,
if Elk isn't there, I think you still die through Dominus.
Well, I guess we'll never have to really test that one out. His side is starting to throw some emotes out, say hello to his former teammate. Good to see they're a little bit cordial as his former mid laner is given a shellacking towards his team. Double swords on top of him. Just let him know he means business.
Okay, still. We could keep talking about how BLG are winning this game right now, and they certainly are. 5,000 gold the advantage at 15.5 minutes, but Elk is hitting pretty dang hard at this point. Got himself the collector completed, well on the way towards that second item as well. For all of the benefits that Viper has been able to have down in the bottom line, 4-0-5 his score, only a 500 gold lead, so Elk has done a really good job of keeping himself at least toe-to-toe, picking up a couple of kills, doing well in terms of CS, and a Caitlyn who's doming people can be something to try to play around. Same thing with Xiaohu, right? He still does a lot of damage, a lot of burst is available. If you could find a pick potential onto Viper, just instantly take him out. Instantly take Jun out, for example. Then there is still a way to play back into this game as Weibo.
But the problem on the other side is that Shun, with a Crescent Guard up, you quite literally can't put any damage through, and you want to have a burst conversation. Look at Knight's build. I mean, that is as bursty as you can get as a mid laner right now.
Yeah, very much so. And he's got a lot of targets right here. You've got all three of the bottom side of the map players available to you to just instantly take out. And as much as JJ is going to be a little bit tankier, right, he can throw up the shield. He's not going to be as squishy as his peers with that Sundered. You're still going to die very, very quickly if Knight decides to pump full damage straight on into him. There's just a lot of different angles of threat right now. Knight, though, just going to have to jump away, taking a decent chunk of damage out of JJ, thinking about turning back, but Xiaohu walking over a ward is going to save Knight's life.
Yeah, don't push too far here, BLG. You are right in the groove spot, and you're playing to let Shun do anything he wants on this map. He is nearly perfect on the neutral objectives. He let one grub go to the wayside, but outside that, first two dragons are his, Rift Herald's his. The world is Shun's oyster. And back to what we talked about in the pre-show, right? We talked about Shun, how he's such a good complementary piece to the aggressive playstyle BLG want to play through their lanes, but I'm glad that he's reminding everybody, and more importantly Weibo, that when he wants to, he can turn that star power on himself.
Yeah, I mean, why not, right? Show up in this situation. If you've got all of these great carries around you, well, sometimes you can just take it on.
Oh,
Boy, that is.
My God. All right. Viper has aimbot. Riot, help.
What? Completely blind snipe. During draft phase, I said, hey, if Viper's feeling good, if he's got those snipes on right here, this Ashe can just completely take over a game through pick potential. Well, it hasn't needed to do it through pick potential previously. You could just walk at people and fight. But if you're also going to be landing enchanted crystal arrows like that, Weibo's options in this game are rapidly dwindling.
You know what? I don't know why I ever doubted my goat Viper that he wouldn't be able to make Ashe look flashy. I mean, he's making Ashe look flashy. In all reality, this is...
Okay, he's seen here, but you know he's just going to walk away in a straight line.
Did he? So he actually predicted this, Bloxer, because he put it further down. Oh my god. He actually predicted exactly where Xiaohu would dash after seeing the arrow.
That might be one of the craziest predicts I've ever seen.
Oh my god. He has aimbot, but it's in his head.
There was a real thought process there of, hey, I bet he's going to just not move. He then sees me fire the arrow. He thinks it's going to be straight at me. I'm going to move down. Okay.
Oh.
There's also this. This is the other problem that you have as Weibo in this game. Slayer.
How do I commentate that, Bloxer?
You don't. You just yell.
Oh, they're doing more. They're doing more. All right. Crescent guard forward from Shun, and that is Xiaohu using a defensive between worlds on his... in an audacious position himself, though. He does put up the no auto-attack zone, dashes over the wall to safety, and Weibo still can't even find that trait. It is an 8k gold lead before 20 minutes.
Yeah, man. And that Spirit's Refuge right there, just nothing you can do. He's just going to dash over the wall away from you. And, well, my one concern during the earlier portion of this game, about 6 minutes ago, was... they've got themselves out to a pretty big gold lead as BLG, about 4,000, 5,000, but they hadn't really expanded it any further. Well, they've got themselves 1,000 gold a minute ahead since then, so things are getting better and better, and now potentially hunting for Zika. Bin, can you one-shot him? No. Can Knight one-shot him? Maybe, but I do think they need to be a little bit careful. The Renekton, probably the only person at this point who can stand up to that level of damage.
Oh my god, Knight's setting a trap. They saw Xiaohu. They're going to use Bin to bait in, like, oh, it's a 1v2, it's a 1v2. Psych, it's actually a 2v2, make it a 3v2. Oh my god, he doesn't even show up before Knight deletes Zika. And Xiaohu, well, he doesn't get one shot, but he gets cut down by Shun. Weibo, none of the map is theirs. Everywhere they go, BLG are waiting. And now they've started Baron on spawn. 5 versus 3. Jeje, Arha, and Elk have to find a way to walk in. Arhoff misses the flash cocoon on the bin, and Knight's over the wall. Oh my god, he's trying to delete Elk, but he gets spotted. Ace in the hole back over. Bin's going to block it, but remember, the Soul Lanes are just playing bodyguard, because right now BLG are taking a 20-minute Baron. Bin will die to the burst from this trio out of Weibo. And Knight does an interesting distort. Oh no, they're going to go after him for that. His distort's on cooldown. All right, let's see how slippery this LeBlanc can be. There's the clone up. Knight's trying to trick them. He's going to distort away. JJ's going to flash after him, and JJ will find that shutdown. So Billy's Soul Laners do a little bit of griefing, but it is a Baron still for their squad.
Hey, Bin dying there is absolutely fine. That body blocking was great from him. He just couldn't quite find an angle to go in with the Gnar, but still was absolutely fine. Knight, not entirely sure what he was doing, but I guess at this point in the game where you feel like a god and are invincible, it's worth having that Notion knocked down just a little bit. Still, you're going to get away with 3 Baron buffs in inventory as BLG, and they're already out to a massive advantage off the back of that initial Baron take. Now looking to open up the base in the mid lane. Pretty close to doing so, although may just have to back away now as the remaining members of Weibo take it out top lane, take a reset, and now coming back out onto the map, looking to compete over this Drake.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any competition going here. I think it's just Shun and Viper slaying a beast for fun. And that's what they'll do. They'll get onto Ocean Soul Point at 22 minutes after taking the first Baron of the game at 21.5 minutes. And we are still on that blistering pace for BLG to take themselves a 2-0 lead. And at this point, viewers, just sit back, relax, and watch some sick Ashe arrows and Knight doing this. Yep, that's a half health Elise going bye-bye. Thanks, Shadow Flame.
The Elise really has just not brought you anything so far in this game, and you have to imagine it's not going to be turned back on Bin. Now potentially getting caught out on the side lane, although Bin still in a relatively strong spot, will try to make his way back away, a hop away. He's getting his Gnar bar up.
I'm watching the Stand United cooldown. Oh, it's up in 10 seconds. I don't think... Oh, he goes Mega. Can he ult him off of him? Yes, he can. Does he have a hop in store? He has a slow. Oh, the Pierce of the Lance doesn't have enough damage. Bin just walks it out. He doesn't even need on. Because guess what On's doing? Yep.
Yeah, look at the rest of the map. That's going to be the bot lane tier 3 tower falling and the inhibitor soon to follow. The remaining members of Weibo trying desperately to defend their base, but they're now going to be contending with super minions pouring on in as well. And BLG, they aren't even done.
Grand Starfall, they're trying to make it a 5v4, but Shun covers enough for 3 men on his own. This Crescent Guard backs off all of Weibo, and he has the GA as Knight, eviscerates Arha. Cover for the dive as well. On doesn't even die as Shun comes out of the GA, does get pop up between worlds, but it's too little, too late. Viper spaces beautifully with his flash, and Knight gets to clean up all the rest of the kills with his Gnar next to him. Ash Arrow just makes sure that Xiao, who has to burn his last dash cooldown, which will be his flash. And the mid laners will go blow for blow in the jungle for pride alone, because the headline here is BLG might have just had their most dominant game of 2026 to put themselves on series point with a date against JD Gaming on the horizon.
That's it, 11,000, nearly 12,000 gold, the advantage at the end of that team fight. And I don't know if you were watching the player cams as that game was ending out, but On was laughing and smiling. He was very happy as that game closed out. What a performance from BLG. I mean, it starts down in the bottom lane, and it just continues on. It permeates out through the rest of the map, and at some point, about 7 minutes into that game, you knew that Weibo were in some serious trouble.
You know, I didn't get to make the point because the running joke was every time I wanted to bring it up, some action happened on the map, Bloxer.
It was true.
I gotta give applause on. Listen, he was the Elise player to Elk's Caitlyn all of last year on BLG. If you missed it, they played that bottom lane a lot whenever they wanted to smash bot lane, run away with the game. So he saw Elk have the gumption to pick it with his new fancy support, and he's like, "Nah, man,
Nah.
I started this with you. You don't think I know the tech to cancel it out?" And now they learned it's Shen support.
Yeah, and I've got to imagine that it was feeling a little bit telegraphed potentially with that Karma ban right at the very beginning of the bans,
oh, yeah,
right?
Totally.
And you're like, we're thinking something with dashes and something aggressive potentially coming down in the bottom lane. Now, maybe it's a Pyke and we are just completely throwing things out and going for something random, or it's going to be something really aggressive down in the bottom lane. And at the point at which the Nico's taken away, well, that would have been the other aggressive option. Cool. Maybe you're going to end up seeing something like the Elise. Now, it does end up coming through, and you just don't get anything going. But I really have to highlight that pathing that we saw right at the very beginning again, because the expectation in the bottom lane for BLG is that you're going to get pushed in because you're into this very aggressive bot lane, and then Jun can just take 3 camps, go straight to gank, get behind them, and go for the gank. It was nearly scuppered by the fact that BLG's bot lane were winning in the 2v2 that they shouldn't have been able to anyway, because of really nice taunts coming through from On. Still, Jun is able to make it work, and again, we're talking about how good Viper was in this game, how good On was, Knight was blowing people up. Jun is my MVP because he was everywhere.
If Shun does not win player of the game, I mean, I don't actually have any power to like do anything. Like, the most I can say is I'll walk off the camera. Like, that's that's our defiance here. Yeah, but no, I will get fiercely angry. I okay, sulk when like I sulked. You know, you sulked after Bin won the game 1 player of the game. Yeah. That's sulking. I will definitely be visibly angry if Shun doesn't win this, because
very fair.
It doesn't show in the damage numbers, like, but this was a jungle canyon. Shun was in every lane. He makes the difference on some of those bot lane 2v2s early to make him 3v2s. BLG, Viper plays really well. Knight does a good job, but like, they do not win a 24-minute game if they do not have Shun on this roster.
No, absolutely not. And looking at the gold graph right here, that is a steady climb up towards the mountain. Not what we expect. LPL gold graph is crazy. Like, that's not what we're expecting whatsoever. I mean, yeah, look at that. 68% on the kill participation. So there were solo kills happening around him. He'd fed enough kills into his players that they were then able to go and get stuff done. But it was just such a nice game overall from Jun. But it felt like everybody, again, pulled their weight. Nobody was slacking. Nobody was being slow in this one. Bin dies a couple times to some ganks happening top lane, but it felt like it was more Weibo throwing everything in the kitchen sink at the top lane because they had to try find a lane to get going.
Yeah, it really felt like their only option, and it really didn't provide any results outside of one little escapade. Again, we always joke about, you know, like some early games, like decide games already, like the opening 10 minutes. Rarely do you see a game where I can aptly describe it, Bloxer, by saying this game was won and lost in one single lane of League of Legends. There's 3 of them, but only one decided this match.
And I really like the fact that BLG both recognized that and kept exploiting it. Oh, we get a solo kill bot lane and then we'll move out onto the rest of the map. No, we're going to keep you in this bot lane and we are going to pummel you until you show that we can't do that anymore. And at no point were Weibo able to stop that from happening. So yeah, cool. We'll keep going. And it really exploded onto the rest of the map where Knight got to come down into the bottom lane, pick himself up a couple of kills, and then go back into his mid lane and start bullying out Xiaohu. And then you could go top lane and try get a couple kills into Bin, and he was then able to survive longer into those top lane dives, into those ganks happening, and buying more time for his team. This was a really cohesive team win, but obviously having as many kills funneled into as possible during the early game does make it easier to then play out the rest of the map.
Right. Yeah, that is a very valid point. Just for me, Bloxer, this really felt like a ceremonial win for BLG, and not to get too ahead of myself, because we're just now about to go into March on the calendar year. You know, the big title games are still a decent ways away for BLG. They still have a lot of work to do. I mean, this is. We already talked endlessly about how crazy of an arrow that was. But the point I want to make here is this felt like the BLG style of dominating, winning games that they did in 2024, but now with a guy of Viper's caliber that just, it feels like every click he makes is correct. This really felt like a game that shows not only the LPL, but maybe even the world why BLG could have a shot at taking everything home.
It's the sort of cherry on top that you go, oh yeah, this is now looking like perfection. This is what we wanted to see. I will be super fascinated if BLG are able to win this one out 3-0, what they're going to be able to do in the next round versus JDG. Because this is a JDG who have gone to all 5 games in their previous 2, who, as you said, have been able to throw some truly monumental leads, but also scrape themselves back from some pretty bad positions.
They've also been like the kryptonite to BLG in the regular split, right? JDG were the ones that ended the BLG perfect undefeated run to start the split 1, and they've always had BLG's number, so we'll have to see. We're not there just yet. Thankfully, there'll be no freakouts in the player of the game section. Shun earns himself his first player of the game of the playoffs there. I believe that's what that 1 in parentheses is for, and much deserved. This was one of the greatest games we've seen from Shun in a BLG jersey since he returned.
Absolutely. He has just been so nice for this team. He's really been looking good, but this is that performance that you're able to point to go, I'm that guy. I can do this for my squad. I can get my bot lane ahead. I can transition it into mid lane. I can move it onto the rest of the map. Beautiful, beautiful game out of Jun right there.
Well, what a road here for BLG that they are paving for themselves in the playoffs. They are up 2-0 over a Weibo team that's been playing with serious fire. They had the first team All-Pro Marksmen to sport as well with Elk after leaving this BLG team. But it's BLG up 2-0, and now we may start asking questions of, is this BLG rounding into perfection form that can make them not just split contenders, not just LPL title contenders, but even bigger? Weibo on the other side now are cornered. Can they put up any sort of fight after getting pummeled in Game 2? We'll have to find out. They'll have first selection and more to themselves to try and keep this series alive. Game 3, BLG Weibo Gaming coming your guys' way after another short break. We're back from giving Weibo some time to recover from the absolute battering that BLG gave onto them for a 2-0 series win, and now we got to see if first-team All-Pro Marksman Elk and the rest of the Weibo crew can find a way to bounce back from that drubbing. Bloxer, the silver lining here is all those early game dominating champions BLG picked in Game 2 are off the board. You got that going for you.
Fearless is great. Love Fearless. Yay. Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine what you're talking about right here as Weibo in the locker room, right? Because you go into game number 1 and you've got a late game scaling comp. You don't really get the mid game going for you quite as well as you want it, but you feel like you're about to pull it back and you just go a little bit too far, lose out, end up having your base stolen away from behind you by Bin. Okay, fine, we've made some mistakes. We need to just sort of clean a couple moments up. Some of our decision making there wasn't great, and we'll be able to win game number 2. We were competitive. And then in game 2, you get clattered. I mean, there was nothing that they were able to do whatsoever in that game. And so, as Weibo, what do you say? What do you take the reset for? The thing that worries me most is that game 1 is a late game scaling composition all about the team fights, and it doesn't work. Game number 2 is a early game composition all about dominating in lanes and then transitioning that into quick picks that you can work on for the rest of the fights. That doesn't work either. How much more can you change before you just don't have an answer to BLG?
That is a very important question that I can't answer, and we'll see if the draft does. But, again, back to that game 2. I still cannot get over the fact that it was one of the most telegraphed drafts we've seen in the LPL, right? Like, the Poppy Karma ban, it was Weibo's plan all along. And that's what really I think is the true gut punch and why, like, the vibes could be pretty bad right now for Weibo. Obviously, just speculating, I have no idea. But to telegraph a draft like that, to say we are playing Caitlyn Elise, we are planning for it, I don't care if we're showing it, and to get clattered around in that aspect, man, we are really going to test the mentals of this Weibo team. Maybe it's not as bad because it isn't an elimination series for Split 1, right? But still, to go out like this would be tragic for a team that really was one of the teams riding really high into these playoffs. Yeah. Like JDG were the team that is in the upper bracket finals were dead even in the split. Maybe you could argue AL was probably the highest flying team the way they ended Split 1, but Weibo was definitely up there. And I know there are some people at LPL English that were Weibo believers and very, try to push the narrative of this Weibo grand finals appearance. I'm praying for them right now.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a big Weibo believer, well, they're gonna need your thoughts right now because, yeah, game number 2 did not look so good, but game number 3, clean slate. Take it all, put it behind you, and try play around what has been looking good. And I think where you've been looking pretty good has been top lane. Zik has been able to find himself a couple of good moments right here into Bin. If he can potentially grab himself a bit more of an aggressive champion up in the top lane, maybe you can swing the Rumble for him somehow. Maybe you can get him the Jax. That's been something he's been pretty good on. Or even there's a Hen. A couple of different champions that he can get aggressive on. That's potentially somewhere to try to play around. We wanted to highlight the bot lane matchup as this really big back and forth, but so far, Viper has just been heads and shoulders better than Elk in this match.
And, just to give credit to their counterparts as well, On has been a lot better than Arha. Outside of maybe like some of those early minutes on the Leona, On has been much better in the sport. So bottom lane as a general is just such a strength for BLG right now. Bloxer, my question to you being, we already saw Weibo come off of a game loss and with first selection decide on that first pick and they ended up on the red side. To try get things back to winning ways, do you expect them to once again hold on to that first pick, or do you maybe see them going for counter pick viability now in this spot?
I think the first pick is just stronger. I think if you can grab yourself that, it puts so much extra pressure in terms of the bans. I mean, we really haven't taken the top tier of champions off of the board, right? There's still the Orianas, the Nikos, the Jaces, the Poppies of the world. Nocturne, even if you want to go for something like that you're still thinking you're probably having to ban away. And so just being able to get that first pick puts extra pressure on BLG.
Well, it looks like we are in the same exact draft style as the last 2 games. BLG blue side, Weibo gaming red side, but Weibo holding that first pick. And the Poppy ban's still going to continue here. Zig's ban early signals to me that Xiaohu might want to get his hands on that Azir if it's let through.
Absolutely. I mean, we were talking about it during the pre-show, right? Knight does bad things to people that pick the Azir without banning away that Ziggs. So it makes a lot of sense to just take that one off of the board. The Nico as well, going to sit on the bench as well. Yeah, you can just grab yourself the Azir first of all right here. It would signal a bit more of a later game scaling, team fight orientated composition, something that Weibo have been exceptionally good on, and so I do think this is a pretty good first pick to grab. Now in terms of playing into it, you could grab almost anything into the Azir. Most of the champions at the top tier of the meta are just absolutely fine into it, and Orianna if you just kind of want to chill in the lane and also go for that team fight style.
Oh, I mean, this will just be... I'm going to talk about mid lane really quickly. Mid lane. I will say it would be really cool if Knight locks in the Akali to try and answer this here. Okay. Bloxer, this is my two loves in League of Legends coming together. My favorite champion, my favorite AD carry, my favorite AD carry player. How poetic. Viper on Ezreal. He finally gets that flashy champion.
Yep. Yes, he does. And this is the thing, right? In the previous game, he was exceptional on the Ashe. He managed to make the Ashe feel flashy in a lot of ways too with that snipe on the arrow, but instead he's now going to find himself with something with a lot more agency, a lot more push forwards, and we'll see what the pairing is going to be. It looks like they're potentially grabbing mid lane instead. Just going to go towards the Karma. I like this. I think you can wait longer until we get that mid lane pickup. There's no need to pigeonhole yourself right now, and getting the Karma means you've got the push bot lane, and there's no real threat into it at this point. All of the other ADCs that could have been good into a poke threat push bot lane have been taken away.
Yeah, the only thing I could have thought they would respond with would maybe like try to go Corki Nami, because you would have Enchanter v Enchanter, so an engaged support wouldn't be exposed. But Weibo, once again, are opting into a red side draft where they want their whole top side finished off here. So Cassante, it's really hard to counterpick into him. Wukong is probably the strongest jungler left back up. It is a good turn here from Weibo. What does Bin want to do in response? Because there are ways to make this an advantageous matchup, but I feel like with the Scion left up, we're just going to unfortunately get into that tank v tank snooze fest. It makes the most sense, right, Bloxer?
Absolutely. This is the correct decision right here. You've already got yourself Viper sat on an aggressive yet squishy champion who's going to have a lot of threat going on towards him. Being able to just be a body blocker, get involved, is going to be really good. But even beyond that, this is now every single lane pitching into getting involved across the entirety of the map so far, right? In game number 1, you get to see a lot of roaming going on between both the mid lane and the bot lane with On. Then in the second game, you get both On and Knight moving around the map again, and then in this third game, Bin, with that ulti, can just join up quickly from fights and just play the map alongside Jun, which has been his best look.
Already forming that strategy with this draft for BLG, as you pointed out, Bloxer. Weak side, Bin on the top side, and don't need to worry about him whatsoever, and play towards your other lanes. Good ban from Weibo onto the Akali. I think the one problem with locking in your bottom lane and, you know, getting the Scion before the ban phase is I really think a Knight Akali, the way he's been playing in the series and how advantageous that is into the Azir early to mid game would have been very fun. But Knight will have to go towards something else. I think he would have liked the LeBlanc into this Azir already, so it will be something to look forward to, right? Is the fact that we have LeBlanc, Akali, and Ziggs all taken away. Those are all the champions I feel like Knight would want to try and pick into this Azir to punish it.
Yeah, all of the top tier of punishing champions have been taken away through Fearless so far, so at this point you're kind of looking to go even a little bit more. I do wonder if you want to just keep sitting very far back. Something like the Hui could potentially be fun in this situation. Otherwise,
Victor?
There's a lot of just the very standard, the Victors, the Syndras of the world, which will all just work out well enough for you. You do need some extra team fighting on your side, because Weibo right now have a full front-to-back team fighting composition forming, and if you don't have any way to disrupt that pattern, it's going to be a very tough set of fights for Billy Gaming.
I would love to see that Syndra. I think the Scatter the Weak ability to get this Wukong off of you, maybe to catch the Azir in that Shreeman shuffle is very valuable, and Knight is one of the best Syndra players the world has to offer, albeit also the best Syndra player the LPL has known for the many years, and he is smiling ear to ear knowing that he gets to pilot this Syndra once again. But here's Weibo answering back to that bottom lane here, Bloxer. I think it's the only option, and they index into it fully. All right, we're going to lose lane, but we're going to try and scale out of this game.
Okay, this is the first pickup of this champion so far this split right here for Arha. He hasn't played this one before in this split.
No Pocket Yumi duty yet.
I was already going to be talking about how Weibo had fully told us what their game plan is. They are front-to-back team fighting. They want to do that at about 15 to 70 minutes into the game, and until then they're going to be very weak, and still until 25 minutes they're going to be pretty weak. it got worse with the Yumi. My god, this champion pops up so rarely in games anymore that I'm forgetting its name. It's phasing out of existence for my universe. This is wonderful to learn. Over on the other side, though, BLG, they're so aggressive with this team comp.
Yeah, I mean, listen, bottom lane's going to be an absolute one-sided affair for Viper and On again. Knight's going to have his way with getting easy splinter stacks on the Syndra, and then, I mean, blocks her Nefiri into Wukong. Wukong is very powerful, but into how BLG won Game 2, into how aggressive Shun is playing, confident as that player of the game in Game 2. I love it. Why not? Play with that fire. Bring it over into the other game. Get this series done and dusted, Shun.
Yeah, I do feel you. At the same time, I think that, for once, I do worry quite a lot about the composition that BLG has. I think that there's a real chance for the Nefiri to do what we saw in the previous couple of games from JJ, which was nothing. If you begin to fall behind on this champion, the dog is nowhere near as strong as it was a little while ago, right? What?
Yeah.
7 months ago, probably. This champion was everywhere. It was all you could ever think about. It was so incredibly oppressive. It's really not the case at this point in the meta, and so if you do begin to fall behind as Jun, that can be risky. At the same time, he's not shown us that he's going to fall behind. He's been incredibly good at being proactive and getting kills on him, and if he's able to do that in this game, Weibo are going to have some serious problems.
Bloxer, this matchup, this Game 3 is going to... I'll tell you in a minute here. We got to make sure to get in those playoff gyos one more time. Game 3, BLG Weibo. So, Bloxer, this matchup, if you really think about it, transcends League of Legends itself. I would argue BLG is team dogs.
Yeah.
Weibo's team cats. They're going up against each other. I mean, how often do you get to see that?
Indeed, and I've got to be honest, in the straight-up 1v1, the dog definitely wins. Hopefully for Arha, he's not going to be alone for any situations. Like you said during the draft, right, this should be very much getting poked out, pushed around right here in the bottom lane. The Yuumi really doesn't provide that much.
Ooh, nice exhaust on the Viper. Elk stepping forward, I guess, on Viper's melee range with Elk, and he's going to cut him down. First blood to Viper. Letting Elk know first team All-Pro should have been his. This is his league to run as the main marksman.
And this is the problem, right? As much as they were able to fight back and get a decent chunk of damage down, it's that sustained damage that you have from a Karma and you do not have from the Yuumi. The Yuumi's able to give you 1 Q, 1 auto attack probably, a full round of spells, and at that point you've got nothing more to give, whereas the Karma can keep hitting, can keep dealing the damage, and in that long, slightly more extended fight, BLG are going to be able to come out on top.
And on top of that, I want to praise Viper for recognizing his summoner, his rune keystone choice. This is the one time I get nerdy and technical on you, Bloxer. The lethal tempo versus PTA, there's two logics, but lethal tempo here is why Viper felt confident going for that trade, because he was able to extend that trade even further with it. Love that pickup as we'll look back at the level 1.
Yeah, you were slightly less strong in terms of the just little bits of poke coming on through, but in this long extended fight, absolutely, when you've already got the advantage of having a Karma, yeah, it is just going to be that much better. And I mean, looking at the summoner spells coming on through as well, you've now got nothing on the Yuumi. Now, that's not the end of the world. Nothing on your Sivir either. That's going to be really rough, and it's going to translate into exactly what we are seeing right here. The bot lane pressure is going to be kept up pretty much throughout the entirety of this laning phase, you have to imagine.
Well, we knew the lane was going to be rough, but at what point is it going to be unsalvageable? We'll have to find out here, as Elk is already forced to reset once again, coming back with boots and a control ward. So that is going to schedule, and we'll see how much of an everlasting effect that has on Shun's gameplay. Now that he doesn't have to worry about bottom lane, he can look for his own little trade. JJ, you just saw Knight off map. He roams right into it. JJ doesn't even flash. BLG are right back at it again. The full court press is dominating.
Yeah, I love the way you keep coming back to the full court press. This is the way that BLG have just been taking people out back. The ability to just keep the pressure so high that as the other team, you don't know what to do. You don't feel like you can breathe. You feel like there is always somebody else in your lane, and you never get to just play out your 1v1s. That's particularly devastating for a team like Weibo, who have had some very good 1v1 and 2v2 lanes for themselves previously. Elk and Arha have usually taken over lanes in the 2v2, but they're not winning them right now, and then even when they do, Jun gets involved.
Oh my god. It's a flash on to get the tether. Elk is dead again. Viper does not have mercy. All he's got is Mystic shots. He is putting on a show right now.
Oh, and you look at the body language right here out of Elk. Takes a sip of the drink. Real just scrunch up of the face. He is not happy, and you have really no surprises as to why. I mean, this bot lane is completely falling to pieces. Now, the question for BLG is, what do you do on the rest of the map? Do you do what you had previously, which is you roam Knight down to the bottom lane, get him a couple of kills, then he can go play across the rest of the map? Do you do the same for Bin, or are you happy to just allow Viper and On to keep doing their thing on the bottom side of the map, and then Jun can focus his attention elsewhere and try to help his lanes there?
It's just so awesome. Bloxer, we put such a high mark on Viper's return to the LPL, and while he did play well in the regular split, it wasn't that like sort of 1v9 Viper-esque style that we even saw in HLE last year in their shortcomings of the Worlds. Viper was always just head and shoulders above everybody else.
Yep.
It just seems like we were waiting. He was waiting for the playoffs to really kick it into that high gear, that gear where Viper is known as the greatest marksman the world has to offer right now. It's awesome to see him settling into that form right in front of our eyes in this playoffs.
Exactly. Playoffs is exactly when you really want to be hitting that absolute peak of your momentum, and so far looking so good. As you've been saying, right, there's a dance with JDG available to whoever's able to win this series. At the moment, looking like BLG are going to be able to 2-0 and up. Jun taking himself that first Drake. All of the bottom lane pressure, all of the mid lane pressure coming on through right now means that these Drakes are going to be exceptionally easy to take throughout the early stages. Next up will be those Grubs, and we'll see how much rotation we're really going to get. Do you actually want to break all of the pressure you've got on the bottom lane from BLG and move them around the map, or would you like to just kind of keep the pressure up? I think they could just keep the pressure up bot lane and not have to worry about moving around.
Just keep it pumping. That's the old adage here, and it makes Shun's game even easier. One of the things that we did get to touch on, because the Nefiri came through so late versus the Wukong. Wukong definitely wants to power farm, but a carry jungler like this Nefiri really needs stable lanes to just go constantly through clears and get to that first item quickly and then go to impact the map. So to have a Scion top side that you don't have to worry about, this is this Ezreal, and with Elk, against Elk as well, with On's Karma. I mean, Elk is in hell right now. He doesn't even get to walk up to his own wave. He needs to use Flash, the heal from this Yuumi, and it's going to go from bad to worse, Elk, because Knight is roaming on over. At the very least, they spotted out Knight's look onto this, but you save your life, Elk. You sacrifice, what is that, 2 full waves under your turret? Not even getting the XP right now.
No, you're not getting anything. No lane quest coming through, no XP sitting in your bank account, and certainly not getting any gold. They're also going to step back up again because you kind of have to force your way in here. Viper, he doesn't care that he's taking a little bit of chunk of damage. You could just keep stepping up. And this is the thing, Ezreal Karma is such an oppressive duo. You knew it was going to be a rough bot lane to play out. Picking the Yuumi was just conceding that you were not going to win this lane, but losing out on those 2 extra kills makes it that much worse. The whole rest of the map doesn't even have to worry about bot lane really at this point. You can roam people over for extra bits of pressure, but you are generating your own pressure.
I don't think Viper is going to back until he has 0 mana. I think that's his plan every time, rinse and repeat. And it makes it even more impressive that he took teleport. So Elk is going to get maybe 1 wave to himself before Viper shows right back up. And he's coming back with a Hearthbound Axe and a Sheen. It's already 2/3 to the way of that Trinity Force. Yep. And we're back to Shun taking over real estate as well, trying to punish JJ. And he'll steal away the Gromp with, with those Darkened Daggers and Smite. JJ now starting to get starved out on the map. We are at a torrential pace once again. BLG trying to see if they can close out this game shorter than 24 minutes, which was the Game 2 win. And maybe they'll do so with more battling. Knight is going to yoink the blue buff away, and they take it away before it resets. I mean, is this just not cyberbullying?
A little bit. I mean, at this point, this has got to be miserable to try to play out for Weibo. And we were talking about their mental state. What can you do to just shake off the previous game, get into this next one? And well, so far, the answer doesn't really seem to have come to Weibo either. At this point, you can just keep the pressure up. Jun hunting forwards, pushing on ahead with this Neferi. Neferi got a buff to the passive this patch as well, so he's actually in a pretty strong spot.
God. JJ, I mean, it's coming from all sides. Daggers from the top side. True shot barrage right down Broad Street. And now the call of the pack comes out here from Shun. It forces out the exhaust from Arha just to try and protect Elk. But I'm going to quote myself again from game 2 here, Bloxer. Bottom lane is a toxic wasteland that Weibo cannot touch.
Yeah, absolutely, and this, again, it spilled out in the previous game. It meant that the rest of the lanes weren't able to get the attention that they needed because you constantly had JJ moving down to bot lane to try to just cover, get some XP into the inventories. I mean, we are 9.5 minutes into this game, Slayer. As the bot lane of BLG, you get to go back to base right now, complete your Trinity Force. Yeah, very close as well. Tier stacking's going through beautifully as well. Some booties in inventory for that extra level of survivability. Run back to lane, take that full tower potentially, and then just keep on going.
Oh my god, and Knight wanted in on the action, right? It's just a Q ult and walk away with style. The golden left hand picking up on the dominance of this matchup and looking like he's going to push his lead over Xiaohu up another marker. Again, if you factor in the 2 games we've already played, Knight is 47 to Xiaohu's 37, and the way things are going, we're about to make an 11-game difference. Weibo look completely out of sorts.
I just don't feel like this is the Weibo that we were seeing at the end of the split. This is not the Weibo we were seeing at the end of the split. Yes, BLG were their kryptonite. BLG have Weibo's number, but still, Weibo were able to fight back more than the last 2 games in those previous series. It feels like they're just getting outpaced across the map. This high-tempo, full-court press, as you've been calling it, is just so infuriating to play against. Yeah, you get Bin's ulti right here. Maybe you get a kill onto him, but getting kills onto Bin has not won you any of these games previously.
I mean, is this the game 2 script again? This is exactly what they did. They went 4-1 against Bin to try and dive him under the turret. It is going to work out, but I think Zika, all right, he gets the nice Cassante shield to get himself out. True Shot Barrage is a little bit too late. Weibo finally on the board. The perfect game is ruined.
Yep. But the win still very much in favor of BLG. 5,000 gold the advantage. There is that first tower being taken down on the bottom side of the map, and you could just keep on rolling now.
Don't overstay.
Moving up towards the top lane. Zika low. They are just about going to be able to back away. For Weibo, you've got yourself a composition that wants to play late game front-to-back team fights. Now, can you survive in a late game front-to-back team fight at this point? Probably not, but if you can just hold on, stem the bleeding, not get to 6,000, 7,000 the gold disadvantage, maybe there's a chance for you here, but so far they haven't been able to just slow the pace of the game.
I mean, they're gonna have to give anything that's labeled neutral on the map over. It's not neutral anymore. It's BLG Void Grubs, BLG Dragons, BLG Rift Heralds. JJ is just struggling to pick up camps, right?
Yeah.
The biggest win for Weibo here is arguably the fact that the bottom lane tier 1 turret went down so Elk can farm safer. That's the reality we're at here.
True.
See, I always looking to make a play here. Nice stream and shuffle gets Knight to take a turret shot, gets away from the scout of the week. Knight waiting on cooldowns. We'll have to just walk things out, but this is an Azir pre-15 minutes. He doesn't have the damage to kill a full health Syndra.
No, and you've already got the Ludens completed right here as Knight, so he has a ton of threat back. You see how much respect Xiaohu is having to play with. Now potential dive once again onto Bin. You're going to lose a whole top lane tower for it, though.
This is a very tanky Scion. They see Shun show up, and they're like, all right, we got to back out. The dog's in the area, and they can't even make that play in all this time. Viper's been working down this top lane tier 1 turret. Elk fans, look away from the bottom lane goal difference.
I'm just waiting for this tower to go down to really see what it fully is. Yeah. It's a 3,000.
Yeah,
It's going to be a 3,200 gold lead. It's going to be very close to 3,200.
Can Weibo do this? Are they going to let them?
Yeah. I mean, I think so.
I don't think they're going to let him.
Power top lane. Shun,
please don't steal it.
Oh my god, he steals it.
He steals it. Oh, Weibo, man. It's a nightmare that just never ends.
It's funny in a very sad way watching the player cams every time something goes wrong for Weibo because they just take a sip of their coffee. Just a sip of drink, you know. There's nothing else you can do at this point in the game. This is complete and utter domination, Slayer.
I mean, I'm running out of adjectives to describe how one-sided this matchup is getting. That's the beat down the BLG are putting down right now. They've knocked out all the tier 1 turrets before 14 minutes, and they're taking over the jungle as well. JJ, that dash is pretty audacious. On gets the tether. They do go all out from Zika, but On flashes away from him, and the unleash power sends Zika packing back to base. The jungle is not yours anymore, JJ. The lanes aren't. Nothing is, Weibo.
And that is going to be the 7,000 gold advantage. Even this Sun Disc going down into the mid lane is just barely enough to keep the push from going ahead for BLG. They don't care though, they can head back towards their base, take a couple of resets, come back out onto the map even stronger. I don't remember the last time JJ was able to take a camp uncontested. Elk, I wouldn't, okay, we'll jump into the replay.
Yeah, let's go to the replay though.
Okay, and this... Again, there's very little to say about this. If you are a little bit stronger, if this isn't at this point a 6,000 gold lead, you probably win this team fight. This is quite aggressive out of the BLG members, but it just doesn't matter in the end. I assume nothing happened on the bottom side of the map. It's still only the singular kill onto Bin that went on down.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Elk had to burn any summoners to get away from the Syndra, but it's just such an uncomfortable spot for Elk. You want to get him safe farm. The Sivir needs it desperately, but now we're into the point where Knight's going to side lane, so you can't put the Sivir up against the Syndra unless they lay a trap with Elk. He gets away from the Sky of the Week. Knight immediately burns the Ghost because he knows all of the Weibo armies coming after him. They use the Yuumi ult. A great flash. Shuriman Shuffle finally gets Weibo a positive play. They get the shutdown from Knight right onto Elk. There's something positive here of WBG.
They've got something. That's a little bit of gold back, right? You are going to lose out on the top side of the map to the Rift Heralds, and with all of the tier 1 towers already gone, the Rift Herald actually could do a lot of damage right here. If you can take that mid lane tier 2 tower down, really opens up the map even further than it is already. Makes it even harder for JJ to be able to step up and grab himself any of his camps. Still, Elk has all 2 kills, and you do just need the Sivir to get towards those item breakpoints. At this point, 1 item completed, trying to get enough gold together for the second. You're still 20 minutes away from this really being a threat of a Sivir.
And BLG won't let up for a single second of that timer. You're giving blocks there for Weibo to try and have any sort of chance in this game, any sort of chance in this series. The full court press continues with the minions all getting in lockstep alongside it. Tier 2 turrets are going to constantly be under threat. BLG, I mean, the game plan at this point is what? Just dare Weibo to try and greed for any resources, greed for any overload plays, and wait for the bigger buffs to come on the board. Baron, 3.5 minutes. I mean, it might be a 20-minute Baron take, and they'll get on to Mountain Soul Point way before that.
Yeah, I mean, the only saving grace is that in the LPL, no gold lead is safe, but you are certainly trying to make one so here is BLG. Mid lane tier 2 tower is just going to be taken out by the charge of the Rift Herald. I don't think anybody's going to ride the Rift Herald a second time towards tower. Probably just away. Yep. Oh, no. Actually is deciding to go
Look
on
at him
in.
weave.
They are.
Oh, on. All right, you know what? We got to give him some grief. Oh, no, but the Scout of the Week from Knight, they don't even get the trade on to On. It's a beautiful usage of the orbs from the Syndra for Knight, and On's transgression. His driver's license may be revoked, but at least he has his own life thanks to his mid laner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still going to claim that I was corrected that you shouldn't have gone in, but
you were.
On deciding to test the limits, and yeah, to be fair, he did not end up dying. So look at all of the people it's dragging towards the mid lane, and you've got free push happening top lane. Bin going to be able to take himself another turret plate, and the gold lead just keeps getting bigger.
You know, blocks are this is a game where I almost feel bad for you, my friend, because I don't know how you break down the game state very much. So BLG JDG.
Yeah, exactly. It's very interesting when it's just individual lane play that wins you matchups, because usually at this level it isn't just you're better than your opponent's bot lane, especially not when we've got 2 bot laners that we were hyping up so much when we said that Arho was having a really impressive split. He was finally getting his chance, and On, you know, he's been having a weird time of it. I think this split's been very good from him, but there were a lot of jokes, at least at the start of last split, between On and Off. We weren't expecting this to just be complete domination from the bot lane of BLG, but that has been what skewed the whole rest of the map. Yeah, Knight's been playing well, Jun had an incredible game too, but the fact that the bot lane are playing this well means there's nothing else to do for Weibo.
It felt like that was the matchup that was the most up in the air, right? You expect Knight to, even to Xiao, who's in a bit better form, garner leads in that aspect.
Yeah,
You'd favor Bin against Zika. It was, all right, can Elk and Arha go blow to blow with Viper and On? Like, that's a star-studded bottom lane matchup, especially in the all-pro votes conversation. And as you pointed out, that has been the strongest gap for BLG, and this is the type of series you get with those other lanes going as expected. I mean, the brigade forward continues. It's the top lane tier 2 turret taken down. BLG, I know you did a really good job praising the fact that they kind of just dominated their opponents lane versus lane, but even it can be easier to do with this monstrous of a gold lead. Their rotations across the map to take these turrets on time is also pretty flawless.
I mean, it's suffocating. This is a suffocating playstyle out of BLG. The map rotations are gorgeous, the vision setups have been gorgeous, and it's not just towards these objectives like the towers, it's everything. They've been on time to every single Drake, every single objective in terms of towers, in terms of just the individual camps. They've been tracking JJ through all of his camps. At this point, it feels like if JJ is taking one of his camps, it's because BLG decided to let him. They had something else they'd rather be doing at this point, not that he was able to do that on his own merit.
So now looking forward, do we expect a Baron tick to come pretty soon here? They've got Shun clearing out enemy jungle camps on the bot side. They're looking to try and maybe knock down this last tier 2 turret, but and whenever they want, they can make a turn for this Baron. Shun maybe has an item that he wants to get in base. He'll do that soon. I mean, what do Weibo do? Is JJ thinking like Hail Mary Baron? He's trying to get maybe a deep flank. It's just so hard to do anything. I guess it was the latter. JJ is trying to go for this deep flank onto the mid lane with On and Viper, but they'll just simply slide on over to the BLG strong side, which is Knight looking to solo out Zika. The all-out does get him enough damage away from the Unleashed Power, but the Scout of the Week is so precise here, and it's an unpowered arcane shift forward from Viper that gets himself a 5th kill. Weibo trying to collect back with a big flake from JJ, but another scatter is going to chunk JJ down to about half. He doesn't even get the Cyclone out. Knight cuts him down to size with 1 Q. Xiaohu doesn't even get to arrive to the party. Elk is getting body blocked here from Bin. And there's just nothing Weibo can do to break this titanic wall that is Bin and BLG behind him. Domination once again.
Absolutely shouldn't. Even just going to be pushing through the mid lane right now, making sure the pressure is high and that Weibo can't try to step back out of their base again. That felt like the moment for Weibo where they could potentially have rotated quickly enough, but BLG, with all of their vision across the map, knew that the rotation was coming, were able to assemble the troops together and fight on back. And Knight, we talked about how the Syndra was going to be really fun with the Scatter the Weeks as an anti-engage tool, but he has been a sniper with it on both the offensive and defensive side.
And you're starting to see Knight showing off why a lot of these mid laners have been taking ghosts in these games, right? The fact that he can just maneuver around this all in from Zika. Ooh, pick on to Knight himself from JJ. Here's a 400 HP shield here from On. I got you, buddy. And Viper will come in to finish off that kill. JJ down, and even if he was up, I think BLG go for this Baron. Now it's Baron's death warrant has been signed.
Absolutely it has, and you're just going to have to try for some kind of miracle steal right here as Weibo. I don't know if you can even just afford to concede it still. With Xiaohu down on the bottom side of the map, do you have the numbers to try? What can you throw over? One boomerang to try to steal this one away? I mean, maybe.
We're trying to circle on to BLG now. Xiaohu teleport off to the top side. They're going to try and go after Viper. Let's see how slippery he can be on this Ezreal, because Zika has him cornered. The all-out pulls Viper over the wall. He flashes back over, and Xiaohu will finally find that kill. They get rid of the big Viper, and it's Xiaohu that does pick up that second kill. They sacrifice Elk and Arha to do so, but for now, Weibo do stop the Baron play.
Yeah, and you wait long enough for JJ to be able to get back up and available and dissuade any further aggression towards the Baron. I like that from Weibo. You had to do something, and I really like the big flank that you got right there out of Xiaohu. Even though he wasn't able to really turn it into major damage dealt at the initial part of the fight, it split Viper off from his buddies far enough to finally be able to get that kill. And that was a massive shutdown, a ton of gold picked up right there by Xiaohu, exactly who you want to be getting ahead.
So they do get 2 items onto the Azir. Elk is getting towards about 3.5. So we're starting up the building blocks of having that composition scaling into factor. Elk will get away from Shun looking for that flank on the Nefiri. the game has slowed down a bit, but the problem here for Weibo is the alarm clock is going out on Mountain Soul that will really ruin things, and then of course the Baron Dance can always come back through for BLG, but for now, with all the control on this bot side, they are going to get an uncontested 24-minute Mountain Soul.
Yeah, and I mean, what can you even slightly do about it? The Mountain Soul as well, I feel like is one of the better souls you can get here as BLG. The fact that you've now got yourself that extra level of survivability. Viper barely died in that previous team fight. With the Mountain Soul, he might well have not. And that just makes things even harder for a Weibo who are still floundering in this game. The previous game, how long did it last? Was it 24?
It was 24. It was like 24 and change. So we are going to go for a longer game unless it ends like right now. Which, I mean, Shun's looking for it. Maybe. No.
Yeah.
Hey, I forgot. We have to fight over a red buff, Weibo. Let's get that in order. I guess we already did in game 1, so we don't have to do it in game 3 here. But
Slayer, that fight over red buff, where it felt like Weibo could potentially have gotten back into that game.
Was that the end of the series?
Like a lifetime ago. Yeah, that was the end of the series. Arha decides to go in and fight around a red buff. He dies. They get outpaced bot lane. JJ dies, and the series was well and truly done and dusted at that point. I mean, it's going to take a miracle intervention right here for Weibo to be able to fight back in this one.
Oh boy, they're taking the Baron on one side. I thought they might look for a play there on to Elk, but Bin will just stand tall in the mid lane with about 10 bajillion HP. Now he's looking to turn with the Unstoppable Onslaught. The Baron's going to be picked up. Beautiful ult into the scatter combo. The Storm Surge gets the kill there down on to JJ. And now the slows are starting to stack. Elk pops the Ghost. The ultimate needs the final champ from the Yui with a Scatter the Weak. Finds its mark again from Knight. And down goes Elk. Goodbye to your first team All-Pro 80 carry. But that was in the regular season. The postseason is a whole different beast. And Shun is ready to play in the playoffs for BLG. Down goes Xiaohu, and it's the final march here for BLG. You look up the word domination in the dictionary. Today, you'll see a picture of BLG. The team set up to potentially be the big bad of the LPL international stage just made a statement win, a statement sweep over Weibo Gaming to let not just the league, but the world know this is what the peak of Billy Gaming looks like in 2026. It's only a matter of kills to find as they knock down Zika, get rid of JJ, and find the kill onto Arha. The most dominating series of the playoffs belongs to BLG as they 3-0 to send Weibo down to the lower bracket and have a date with JDG.
This JDG BLG matchup is going to be insane. It's going to be such a fun matchup to watch. But we said that about this matchup, and game 1 sure did deliver. Game 1 was crazy. It ends with a flank into the base from Bin. And we're like, okay, this is going to be a banger series. Awesome. Weibo never returned from the dressing room between games 1 and 2. They never stepped back onto that stage. They got their butts handed to them twice in a row. And it felt like BLG, whilst they had to try in the initial 5 minutes, once they had that lead, they never let back. They never let up once they had Weibo in their grasp.
I mean, it's just like, what I say in the end of game 2, right? Bloxer is like, I didn't want to get too far ahead of myself. It was like the sort of ceremonious moment potentially for this BLG team. The combination of their aggressive play style from 2025 that, you know, obviously won them a Split 3 championship. You made them one of the more dominating teams in the LPL. Add in Viper, and once you get him going as one of the greatest marksmen the world has to see, when will we finally see that? I think this series was that moment that we finally saw the full culmination of this roster that we had projected from the offseason.
Absolutely. This was this whole roster coming together in such a gorgeous way. Now, how much of it was that Weibo just fell out of their form? How much of it is the BLG are Weibo's kryptonite at the moment? We'll have to wait and see until their next matchup. We'll focus in more on BLG in a minute, right? Because they have been awesome and the stats are going to show that to us again. I just quickly want to think about what it is that now Weibo have got to go and do. They lose right here, so they're going to be down in the losers bracket. I don't think they slot in with AL, though. They'll be in the top, so they'll be waiting for the winner of TESWE most likely, or depending on seeding.
I don't know if we have the bracket updated. Our awesome producer, Icefire, I don't know if you turned around. Maybe, hey.
guys at that point, because the previous matchup, Weibo looked great. Obviously, they're beating up on a much less impressive opponent overall, so you're expecting them to win. There's so much to go back to the drawing board for from game number 1 for Weibo. Games number 2 and 3, you look at draft and you look at the first 5 minutes, and beyond that, I'm not sure that there's anything you could have done from that point. I don't know that you need to VOD review the remaining 30 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. I do think you did an apt job, you know, talking about it. I think Weibo, not to discredit BLG's domination play, but I think Weibo do kind of go back to the drawing board and say they kind of shot themselves in the foot, especially that Game 2 draft, right? We've been harping on it a lot, but I just think telegraphing, you cannot get away telegraphing what you're going to play that hard in a spot like this, in the playoffs, in the LPL, and expect to get results. So I think for Weibo, it's really just kind of maybe trying to get back to what worked for them towards the end of Split 1 playoffs, because even I was on the cast the other time we saw the Caitlyn Elise come across from Arha and Elk, and even then, it didn't work in lane. They got bailed out by winning the game later thanks to superior topside play. Even then, it didn't work. So I actually will say it now, Bloxer. Elk, I know you love going for this Caitlyn Elise combo, but for now, we got to retire it, man.
Yeah, shove it. I mean, we've now had multiple non-LPL gold graphs, right? This is crazy that we're just getting a team start winning and end winning. That's not what we expect from this league whatsoever. And looking at all of the stats, looking at what came on through, I mean, what a completely dominating game from BLG. So dominating, in fact, that it feels a little bit tricky to actually assign a player of the game in this one, because everybody was kind of just popping off. Now, I feel like I know where you want to be going with your praise. I think the Ezreal Merchant has Ezreal.
My vote's locked up, man. Yeah, I don't know what you're expecting here from me.
Very fair. I would like to submit Knight into consideration. I'm not saying he deserves to win it right here. I'm not going to fight you on the fact that that was an incredibly impressive performance right there from Viper. But Knight with his Scatter the Weeks was epic. He was finding himself nearly solo kills in the mid lane too, roaming around the map, making it work. He was also looking great.
You know what's funny, Bloxer? To get a little bit more personal, my favorite mid lane champion to pick is Syndra.
Yeah?
So it's very funny, like the Slayer champion merchant debate. Like the Syndra does help it. I don't know. The one thing, we won't get to see the player of the game. I'm sure they're doing an interview. Make sure to stay locked to our socials, because I believe we'll get those out there after. But what I will say here, I was doing a little bit of digging. BLG JDG, that's obviously the upper bracket final. The winner of that is the first LPL team that goes to first stand.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool. They only matched up in the playoffs one time last year across the 3 splits. It was the first round of the upper bracket, and it went 5 games. That was a climactic one. So we've seen JDG. They played 10 full games in 2 playoff series, and even historically back to last year, Bloxer, this series that will now go up next here in the upper bracket was a 5-game banger as well.
Yeah, I mean, this should be a really exciting matchup, and I think a lot of it has to be on JDG and whether or not you feel like you're coming in with a bunch of momentum or not. Getting 2 5-game series back-to-back is a lot of games to be playing through. It's a lot of tape to put out there for your opponents to be able to flick through. As JDG, I don't know how much you learned from this series out of BLG. Wow, they were better than them in the lanes. Let's not let them be better than us in the lanes. Can you do that? I mean, again, we've been talking about an ADC matchup for the ages that we had in this game, and we did, but now we get to have Gala playing in this matchup. Gala versus Viper, On versus Vampire. Now, this is still going to be a bot lane matchup for the ages.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool for the Viper road, right? As we talk about, he's back in the LPL, and through his first couple of series, for a majority of his playoff series, not counting the BLG first round, to prove that he is back to hopefully bring glory to the LPL, he's got to run the 80 carry gauntlet. The guys that have been holding it down so far. He can't go after Jackie Love yet, hopefully, for the future of him in top esports. But that means that Elk and Gala are the 2 best that he can really get a crack at. Maybe even hope if AL can come up from the lower bracket. We'll have to see here. Bloxer, though, that does bring a rapid end to our night, though. And before we do get on out of here, I do have, I believe, a couple of important people that I do want to give a shout-out to. We talked about our coffee supporters earlier, but if you checked out the coffee menu, you might have seen that you can become a Elite Coffee supporter. And one of the rewards here is you get a shout out at the end of our day. So thank you very much to our elite coffee supporters, Aaron, Soup, and Mong. Their pledged financial contributions help level up the broadcast and give back to the casting crew who strive to give you an English LPL product every day. Big shout out to our elite coffee supporters. And if you heard the end of that phrase, every day, we roll on here. We got more playoffs action coming. Tomorrow we'll go back to the lower bracket. Schedule tells me it will be Top Esports versus WE, which is talking back on 2025, pretty historical matchup as well, even if things have changed. So make sure to be back here, twitch.tv/LPL English, youtube.com/LPL_English for more unofficial coverage of the greatest region in the world, being the LPL. Awesome shout out to you, Bloxer. It was a pleasure cutting it up as always on the broadcast, and our production behind the scenes, Ice Fire-Eyed, doing an awesome job as well. Take care, everybody. For you North American people, get an early rest compared to the usual LPL slate. We'll see you guys back tomorrow. Top Esports WE.